This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/radio detectives. And I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I do encourage you to fill out our listener survey, survey.greatdetectives.net. Even if you've filled out the survey in the past, we're using a new survey company required by the Blueberry network, which has provided some of the past advertising accounts. So it definitely would help to fill it out so they get an accurate picture of who our audience is. Go to survey.greatdetectives.net. Thank you so much for your support. And this episode of Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, is brought to you by the fantastic support of our listeners. Thank you so much for all your financial support over the years. And the title of today's episode is Motive for Murder. And it's interesting to note that up until last week, the Barrie Craig episodes have been a month or so ahead of the Johnny Dollar episodes we've been playing. However, last week's Johnny Dollar was from July, and Barrie Craig from February. So now Johnny Dollar's occurring ahead of Barrie Craig, but that won't last long. Well, anyway, here now is Motive for Murder.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
When the high cost of living gets your nanny, folks, walk that last mile with a guy whose only gripe is the high cost of dying.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. Over the hot stove, winters, while lubricating your tonsils with a hot toddy and wondering how long to spring, freelance operatives pass the time exactly the way barbers, ball players, and bookies pass the time. They talk shop. The toughest case you ever worked, the arch criminals you've met, and the pat alibis you've ripped to shreds. Men will be kids, and you pin a medal on yourself. The medal I always cop off comes when the bragging gets around to the most dough, the most loot at stake in a case. My topper is a modest $40 million. I got the case in the back row of a 40-cent movie house over on 3rd Avenue. A Miss Briggs came looking for me, with an usher behind her throwing a spotlight on me with his flash.
Mr. Craig.
A tall lady in stiff corsets who looked like somebody's loyal girl Friday paging me.
Mr. Craig.
Sit down and enjoy a movie, Miss,
Briggs. Miss Briggs. I can't stay, thank you. You are Mr. Craig.
Red top, handsome though rugged, the outdoor look. Am I describing myself or flattering myself?
You're describing yourself, yes.
Then I'm Barrie Craig, and that's for sure. Have some popcorn.
I must talk to you, but please not here. In the lounge.
Gregory Peck will be awfully mad if I walk out on him.
Please, Mr. Craig, people are staring.
How did you corner me like this?
Jake, your elevator man. He said you were always here in the back row, taking your afternoon nap when you weren't busy.
Jake, huh? Snake in my bosom. Remind me not to confide in him so much. In the lounge, Miss Briggs dropped the case in my lap.
This cablegram came to my office today.
What's your office?
Branch Talbot, attorney at law. I'm Mr. Talbot's secretary.
Old Faithful, huh?
I've been with Mr. Talbot for only 9 years.
Oh, you're only breaking in. Miss Briggs, hire a confidential operative to meet Clipper, arriving tonight. Tanglewild Airport. Check time. Talbot. What's the emergency?
My employer, Mr. Talbot, is returning from abroad, from Portugal, with a client, Floyd Spencer, Jr.
You pointed that up like I ought to know the name. Floyd Spencer, Jr. Let me think. Oh, the neochromite heir. Golden boy who inherits an industrial fortune.
Estimated at $40 million. The late Floyd Spencer, Sr. was very rich.
You're forcing me to agree. I'm vague on the background. I've got a block against heirs. All I was left was a shaving mug and a second-hand toothbrush.
The Floyd Spencer separated more than 15 years ago when the boy was 6. Mrs. Spencer lived abroad in Portugal as a voluntary expatriate. The boy was reared and educated there.
And now, with Spencer Sr. dead, she's coming home with Sonny Boy.
No. Mrs. Spencer died in Portugal some weeks ago. The boy is coming home. I mean the young man. My employer, Mr. Talbot, has been the Spencer family attorney for a very long time.
The Spencer family's now dwindled down to Floyd Jr.?
And an uncle, Uncle Stanley, the late Mr. Spencer's brother.
Why am I being hired?
Well, Mr. Talbot is worried. There were 2 incidents in Portugal.
Clarify, please.
Accidents involving Floyd Jr.
Accidents on purpose? Is that why Talbot's worried?
I believe so, yes. The estate, the size of the fortune, and young Spencer's long estrangement from his deceased parent, the long exile, as it was, where there could be complications.
Homicidal complications, that is?
I don't want to use the word recklessly.
A nice restraint, Miss Briggs. My compliments. $40 million. That grade of cabbages doesn't always excite the best behavior in people.
This check is your retainer.
1,500. This grade of cabbage, Miss Briggs, always excites the very best in me. A fog lay over the Tanglewild Airport like blotches of green and gray paint hanging midair. I waited on the edge of the landing field, close as I could get without risking sudden decapitation. And then when the Sky Giant sat down to unload, I changed stations and got close to the passenger walk, looking to identify Talbot from a picture Miss Briggs had equipped me with. Talbot simplified everything by identifying me.
Mr. Craig?
On the job with a bright and shining face.
I can barely see it in this miserable fog.
Where's Spencer, Jr.?
He's right behind me. Floyd, meet Barrie Craig.
How do you do? This is Paul Shandor, Mr. Craig.
Paul Shandor? Where does he fit into the party?
Don't be an obvious detective, Craig, please.
Stick your hand out, Talbot.
What for?
1,500, your retainer. You're getting it back.
But I don't want it back.
If I'm responsible for the safety of Junior here, I want to know who's who in the party and why.
Well, Paul Shandor is my traveling companion and friend, Mr. Craig.
That answers my question. Now, introduce me all over.
Paul Shandor, Mr. Craig.
I'm happy to meet you, Mr. Craig.
No offense intended, Paul. I was just being thorough.
Oh, I understand, of course. You are Floyd's protector.
And I worry about it. Golden Boy here stacks as high as the national debt. We'll wait right here until everybody's off the field and gone. After that, we'll leave through a route I've mapped out.
Craig, are these precautions, admirable as they are?
It's why you hired me, Talbot. So let's not be impatient, huh? The first pot shot at $40 million commenced as we crossed the field toward a private door in the administration building. The gunner wearing the fog for a shroud. Hit the dirt, everybody, and stay down. Who was it got hit?
I did, Mr. Craig. My leg.
Your $40 million leg. It's 20 yards to the door. Crawl toward it, everybody.
Crawl? Now, Craig,
I'm in charge, Talbot. It's crawl, infantry style. There's a killer out there making the fog work wonders for him. Stand up and you're a goner. In the administration building, Spencer Jr. got his leg wound cleaned and cauterized and a shot of penicillin to keep bacteria from getting ideas.
It's only a superficial flesh wound, the doctor says.
Thank the fog for that.
And the fog saved Floyd's life, yes, but it also enabled the assassin's escape.
If he's escaped.
If he... Well, I don't understand.
Walk with me, Talbot. I'd mapped out a route, I said. A plan, remember?
Yes?
An empty field. Then through a private door. Just our party. Once in that door, 2 airport cops were to fall in with us. Stay with us until we climbed into a waiting limousine.
That's well enough conceived. If only the assassin hadn't chosen the field itself for an ambuscade.
He wasn't always there. He got on the field after the clipper landed and emptied.
I don't follow.
Oh, in here. I had the big searchlights play over the field before we started across to the administration door.
Yes, there were searchlights for a moment.
Then 2 blinks, stop, 1 blink, to signal me everything was okay before our party started to cross. Our gunner sneaked onto the field through the same door we were heading toward.
But why through the same door?
Because he had to, for timing and target range. The regular field gates measure 250 to 400 yards away.
Oh, and the fog would make such marksmanship improbable.
Make it impossible.
Your stress on that same door and on the time element, it obviously has significance.
It does. It signifies Joe Potato.
Joe Potato?
Over there on the bench. I brought him out with me. Joe takes pictures with an eye for goons, creeps, and connivers. Oh, Joe, come here.
Hey, Craig, I don't want to be waiting around long. It's drafty in here. No good for my rheumatism.
Meet a friend, Joe. Mr. Talbot, Joe Potato.
Hey, I've been telling you, nix on the nickname, Craig. It ain't doing me no good socially.
Oh? What other name have you got?
Well, I like Joe the photographer. It's got advertising in it.
Oh, clever. Clever.
So let me sell you the picture already in blow, huh?
You got it developed?
I told you the box I work is automatic. It's got its own developer built in the back. Now, here's the picture. Now, give me what you promised me.
Here you are. 20.
Oh, I'm rooked in this deal. Freezing out here for hours for a lousy 20 I'll be spending on radio diathermy.
This picture, Craig, may I see it?
Sure.
You believe this fellow to be the assassin?
Tell Talbot, Joe.
Only one guy went out that private door. And that picture's him.
Police headquarters.
Trev Rogers.
Speaking.
Oh, Barrie Craig.
You sound far away. It's Alaska, I hope.
Tanglewild Airport, Long Island. Sorry.
There's a clipper leaving for Hindustan in an hour. Climb aboard it, Craig, with a one-way ticket.
There's a character in balloon pants leaving here for your office in 3 minutes. Joe, the photographer.
Joe Potato.
He just changed his name.
Why are you sending him to me?
He's carrying a photograph. A face you see on post office circulars. Check it with your rogues gallery file.
What's the rap?
Hunting out of season.
The game warden's office is in Albany.
When you've got something, try phoning me at the Floyd Spencer Estate, Twin Oaks in Southampton.
Don't wait at the telephone, Craig. You'll grow a long gray beard.
So be a traitor to your police oath. What's one more killer on the loose?
Kill it. Craig, I insist.
Goodbye now.
Craig!
When Spencer Jr. dropped the anguished look from his royal kisser, I questioned him privately in my jalopy driving to the Spencer place, with Talbot and Shandor gone on ahead. I wanted information, and I also wanted the bang of being all alone with $40 million.
I'm not sure I understand your questions, Mr. Craig.
Excuse my peasant English. You're a target for murder, Sonny.
Yes, I apparently am.
There were 2 other attempts on you abroad. I want to know about them.
Well, a fall from a horse during a polo match. The stirrup had suddenly torn free. There were evidences of a knife. The straps had been tampered with.
Attempt number 2?
After dinner one night, I became violently ill. A ptomaine attack. I was rushed to a hospital.
Your food had been poisoned?
I suppose it was, yes.
Whom do you suspect?
Nobody. If I have enemies, I don't know them.
Who profits by your death?
Who profits?
The estate. Who gets it?
Oh, well, my Uncle Stanley, I suppose. He's the closest relative I have.
Is there any other information you think I should have?
I don't want to attach importance to something possibly imaginative or a pure coincidence.
Let me interpret it. You tell it.
Well, for weeks in Lisbon, in Cairo, and later again in Lisbon, I had the feeling I was being followed and watched. I'd turn unexpectedly and see a person somewhere in the background. Always the same person.
Describe this person.
A bland face, like an Oriental's is bland. A man of dainty size, simply clothed, and wearing a fez.
A fez?
Yes, a bright red fez.
Where did you see him last?
I dislike saying this positively.
Then say it negatively, only say it.
I'm not sure, but that he wasn't on the clipper coming across. There was such a person, a face reminiscent of the man I've described, only...
Only?
Well, he wasn't wearing the fez.
Missing those ditches is like hedge hopping. You see what I see up ahead?
A barrier across the road.
A pole between two wooden horses, and not a lantern or flare to mark it.
Oh, there's a sign tacked on it.
Can you make out what it says?
Detour, road repairs ahead. The arrow points left. Would a detour left?
Yeah. Hey, this is a road like a wagon trail. Hey, how high does this climb? When do we connect back with the main road?
Well, the visibility's worse. I suggest your bright lights.
They're on, for all the good they are. Hey, we're risking our necks.
Mr. Craig, a dead end.
Dead end? It's off the mountain, you mean? Cross your fingers, I've got to crash. I came out of the concussion worrying about a tooth on the lower gum. Pushed my tongue against it, and it swung like an old-time saloon door. Damages to the car look minor. Dented grille. The hood with folds like corrugated cardboard. I stood beside the car, breathing in deep, fueling my lungs, before I remembered to worry about Spencer Jr. The kid lay unconscious on the front seat where he'd been riding beside me. Quiet, with his eyes wide open, like a guy stunned into a trance. Normal enough reaction to a car burrowing itself into a cliffside. Chafe his wrists to get the blood circulating, and he'd come to as good as new. Spencer. Spencer. Only thing, Spencer Jr. wasn't coming to, ever. I was rubbing the wrists and patting the cheeks of a dead man. I determined the cause of death by tracing a trickle running down his cheek. Trickle of blood that bounced off his collar and soaked into his clothes. A head injury over the ear. But it hadn't come from the crash. The real cause of death had a touch of voodoo. Lloyd Spencer Jr. had been shot in the head. I tried starting the car without any luck. My jalopy would need towing. That is, if a tow car would dare up the old wagon road. I was standing around keeping a corpse company and wondering how to get both of us back to civilization when the Fez rode into the picture. A car tooting its horn and shimmering its lights up the old wagon road toward me. I watched the car door open and a Fez pop out. A bland face like an Oriental's, a man of dainty size, just as Spencer Jr. had described him.
Your car is disabled?
Your eyesight's better than that. It crashed.
Yes, now I see. And your companion, where is he?
Dead on the front seat.
Dead? From so small a collision?
Dead from a bullet in his brain.
So?
Who are you?
Marcel Surac.
How did you come to be tagging up here?
In pursuit of you, of course.
What detained you? I've been admiring the landscape up here 15 minutes at least.
I lost contact with you on the detour.
The phony detour, the way I figure it now. Somebody rigged that detour to send me up a mountain that spiraled to a dead end.
Yes. The detour was, how do you say, manufactured. I examined it.
I didn't. I still want to know how you've caught up with my party way up here.
Your tire tracks.
In the pitch dark with headlights swallowed up in mists?
I am very expert in scientific pursuit.
Yeah, I heard. Cairo, Lisbon. And on the Clipper without your fez. You stayed closer to the late Spencer Jr. than his skin. Why?
For the present, I do not care to divulge.
Change your mind, mister. The kid was murdered while we both lay unconscious after that crash. Someone waited up here for a free shot at the kid if I miraculously kept the car from going over the cliff. He was in my care, and I flopped. I fell for the detour gag. Now talk, or I'll tear you apart.
It is so very foolish. Force will not succeed.
It won't, huh? Let's see if you're right.
You are so very foolish.
No!
Force will not succeed, I am pleased to remind you.
That fancy flip that sent me sailing. What's the trick?
Jiu-jitsu. I am the finest exponent of jiu-jitsu in the world.
Oh, let's have another go at it.
No, this time I will shoot you.
A gun, huh?
You are under arrest, Mr. Craig.
Come again?
I am a confidential investigator.
You're a confidential investigator?
Licensed by the governments of Egypt and Portugal. In my pocket, I have credentials and a letter of introduction to your authorities.
What's the charge against me?
Murder. I am sure that you have murdered the young man Floyd Spencer Jr. Please to enter my car.
Sure. In a minute.
Please, now.
I gotta tie my shoelace. Okay. Tied it. Oh! I'm the foremost pitcher of rocks in all of the boroughs in greater New York, except Brooklyn. After frisking Surak and studying a flock of papers he kept in what looked like a diplomat's wallet, I turned him over to the New York police, credentials and all.
It's an official case now, Craig, of public concern, too big for you to dominate.
What's your verdict on Marcel Surak?
He is what he says, a confidential investigator.
Detailed by whom?
The authorities in Lisbon. I've checked by transoceanic telephone. Those two attempts on the Spencer heir were an embarrassment to Portuguese officialdom. As an official gesture, they assigned Surak to watch over the boy, protect him, perhaps discover who was plotting against him.
How is Surak?
In Fullersham Hospital, recovering from a broken head. You really beat him.
A reflex reaction. He threw a gun on me. Did you identify that picture Joe the photographer brought you?
I did. Wally Mavis, a Detroit import. He was a killer for hire.
Did you say was?
Distinctly.
Don't tell me.
Mavis was found dead at the foot of a cliff by state troopers. An automobile wreck.
Foot of a cliff? You couldn't be referring to the cliff I almost went off.
Mavis took the same arranged detour you did, only didn't have the wheelsmanship at the dead end.
Mavis muffed killing Spencer Jr. in the airport fog, so...
So his employer shut him up forever.
His employer, huh? Trav.
Yes.
The hired killer, Wally Mavis. Has news of his death gotten out yet?
Gotten out?
To the press, over the radio, to John Q. Public.
Well, no, it hasn't, I don't think. Mavis was identified hardly an hour ago.
Keep it like that. Mum, undisclosed. Wally Mavis wasn't shut up. He's in a police hospital. He survived the wreck.
I see your scheme.
I'm so glad you do. Just don't gum it up, huh? The ancestral home of the Spencers, Twin Oaks, had the usual high stone fences and baying hounds. Inside, at long last, I got to meet Uncle Stanley.
Where is my nephew, Mr. Did you tell me your name now?
3 times. Outside the door, at the door, and in the vestibule.
Oh, so you did. You're Mr. Howard.
Craig.
Well, my nephew was coming with you, the lawyer Talbot said. Now, where's my nephew?
In the morgue.
The morgue, did you say?
I said. He's dead. He was murdered.
Oh, now was he?
Is that all the reaction?
Huh? Oh, what did you say now?
I said, where's the reaction? You lost a favorite nephew.
Favorite? Oh, the boy was no favorite of mine.
I noticed.
15 years in that foreign land and coming home now to steal what belongs to me. Where did you say he is now, did you say, huh?
Taking in a movie. Where's Talbot and Paul Shandor?
Sitting in the library. The boy's no favorite of mine. 15 years in that foreign land, and now he comes home.
In the library, Talbot managed a look that said he'd like to see me boiled in oil.
You were criminally derelict, Craig.
I fell for a phony detour.
Young Spencer was entrusted to your charge, and now he's dead. Any excuses don't stand with me.
Is that a threat, too? Who engineered young Spencer's murder?
Well, how should I know?
Try to guess. I'm staying with this case until I nail the murderer, Talbot.
Neochromite.
What about neochromite?
It's the keystone to the entire Spencer fortune. An industrial synthetic more revolutionary than plastics. It's the bellwether of the stock market. Shrewd traders have made fortunes in its market rise. Shrewder traders have made greater fortunes in its market fall.
Too complex for me. Where's the motive for murder in neochromite?
I'm speaking hypothetically, mind you. Floyd Spencer Sr. kept iron control of neochromite. Spencer control was jeopardized when he died.
And Spencer control is over with young Spencer's murder. Is that the idea? Neochromite becomes a free-for-all?
Yes. There are literally scores of manipulators who can profit by young Spencer's death.
Scores of murder suspects.
The stakes are beyond imagination.
Suppose now we limit our imaginations to Uncle Stanley. Only hypothetically, mind you. What's Uncle's state of mind?
Feeble. You've talked to him.
How about his state of energy?
Energy?
To hire a professional killer, then go it alone and rig a phony detour sign. Then hide out on a mountaintop and fire a bullet into his nephew's brain. It takes energy and zip and muscle. Also some mental coordination. Does old Uncle add up to it?
Oh, possibly. He's spry enough, remarkably active, in fact, for his age, and charged with hatred.
Hatred?
Hatred for the wife and mother who deserted his brother, the late Floyd Spencer Sr. Hatred for the boy come home to usurp a fortune.
A nice try, Talbot.
Well, what did you say?
I said a nice try. Scores of suspects, generally, and a mentally defunct uncle, specifically. A nice try. To make the situation beautifully confused, but it won't work.
Just what nonsense is this, Craig?
The hired killer. The one knocked off as a precaution because I'd connived a photograph of him. I'm referring to Wally Mavis, brought in from Detroit. He didn't die, Talbot, as scheduled.
Therefore?
Nice acting. Nice facial control. You'd be an Academy Award bet in pictures if you weren't going to the electric chair.
Craig, you've lost your mind. I won't stand here and listen to you.
Then you lie here. Mavis survived the car wreck. He lived to confess who hired him. The last I heard, Mavis talked 28 pages of police evidence. On page 1, he named you.
Mavis named me?
He spelled your name out big. He swore you hired him to murder Floyd Spencer, Jr. An old psychological police trick, with a beard like Rip Van Winkle's. But how it worked. Talbot was too much of an amateur in murder to smell out the trick, or hold off from singing out his guilt in a voice that started out baritone and ended falsetto. Trev Rogers motored himself over to Twin Oaks for some postmortems.
So Talbot had looted the Spencer estate and was afraid of an accounting.
Check. An accounting. Forced by young Spencer, and Talbot would go to jail. Talbot wanted time, lots of time. He hoped to make good his theft from the Spencer estate through neochromite.
Buy cheap. Profit by the confused market reaction created by the murder of the Spencer heir.
Mm-hmm.
Buy cheap, then sell high.
That's the whole story. Hiring me was a camouflage. A screen to hide behind.
Not very clever. In my book, hiring you made Talbot a prime suspect.
In my book, too, right from scratch. So let's not brag.
Too bad about young Spencer. 21 with $40 million. The whole wide world his for the taking. Kind of a sad end for him.
Don't shed tears, Trav, for the wrong corpse.
The wrong corpse?
Take a gander at this snapshot. I found it on Marcel Serac when I frisked him.
Huh. Picture young Spencer's traveling companion, Paul Shander.
There's a spitting of rust on your mental machinery, Lieutenant.
Say, wait a minute.
Paul?
Yes, Mr. Craig.
Marcel Serac wasn't interested in a Paul Shandor. His assignment was Floyd Spencer, Jr.
Yes, of course.
I guess this snapshot Serac carried on him to be Floyd Spencer, Jr. As a matter of fact, I guess you to be Floyd Spencer, Jr.
Yes. I am Floyd Spencer.
You changed identities with Paul Shander?
Yes, in Lisbon, before Mr. Talbot's arrival. It was Paul's idea to cheat cheaters, he said. To ensure that I lived.
Quite a beau geste. To do what he did for you. Laying down his life for a friend.
Paul was a beau geste. All through him, Lieutenant. He was a man I could never be. We made a bargain when we exchanged identities.
What was the bargain?
That if he lost his life, I would lose my fortune.
Lose it? How?
Give it away. Befriend the world was how Paul put it.
And will you?
I'll try to keep to my bargain. I, too, want very much to be a beau geste.
$40 million. And, brother, does this sad old world need befriending? Good night, folks. See you next week.
You've been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, Motive for Murder, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled Murder in Mink, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I meet a girl who has lost a mink coat, a man who has lost his head, and a corpse which has lost its life. See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Talbot was Arnold Moss. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Next, Robert Montgomery presents Something Different in News Analysis on NBC.
Welcome back. Other than the Fez, that Egyptian detective reminded me a lot of the Peter Lorre version of Mr. Moto from the movies from the 30s and 40s. Of course, Mr. Moto was Japanese, but was also a master of jiu-jitsu with Peter Lorre in the lead. This episode had, I think, a very good, positive ending, despite the murder story. I should mention that this concludes a period when we've had all of the episodes of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator in an order. And it's somewhat unique to note that there are 59 episodes of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator out there in circulation. 19 of them we've heard, and they were all in a row. And there's later a point where 9 of 10 episodes are available. The other 31 are scattered out over the remaining 150 to 160 plus episodes. So we will definitely catch up with Johnny Dollar at some point in terms of the timeline, because other than those 2 stretches, there aren't going to be more than 2 episodes in a row that are in circulation. Well, we turn now to listener comments and feedback. iTunes review from Notefinder. I just love this podcast. Adam does a fantastic job, and I can't wait until it's time to go to bed so I can listen as I go to sleep. When I first found him, it was April 2010 last year. I had to listen to them in order so I wouldn't get out of sync. So I would take on 2 to 3 a night until I caught up. Adam, keep doing what you're doing. You're great. P.S. I also love the videos as well. Super great job. Well, thanks so much for your kind remarks. And that will actually do it. For those of you who have the app or a premium site, we've got another great William Gargan extra that you can enjoy and download today. We'll be back tomorrow with Rogues Gallery. And next Monday, join us for another episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator. Well, it's time for today's episode of Rogues Gallery, which is brought to you by the generous financial support of our great listeners. Thank you so much for your support. Here now is today's episode of Rogues Gallery, Cabin on a Lake.
The F.W. Fitch Company presents Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use Fitch shampoo. Don't despair, use your head, save your hair. Use Fitch shampoo.
The F.W. Fitch Company, makers of Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo and Ideal Hair Tonic, presents Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Rogue speaking. This Saturday night I'm going to spellbind you, Val. Caught me while spending a week and the fee from my last case in zestful living at a summer hotel, which was so swanky that the help hardly spoke to the guests. For $25 a day, I had one of the 50 bungalows on the hotel grounds. For $30, I could have had one with a window. Well, anyway, there was a girl up there. Isn't there always? She was named Janice Cole, a sort of a social secretary to the hotel. She was about 28. Her eyes were so big and blue they made you think of mountain lakes, and her hair was as black as a jealous rage. She had a figure that made you think you'd seen her before in a swimsuit. Oh, she was real quality. Much to my high blood pressure, she was engaged to a society playboy with $1 for every suntan in Florida, and his name was Clint Hayes. There was dancing going on in the ballroom of the hotel, and Janice was dancing with Clint. But she was watching me. I thought I saw fear in her eyes. They finished their dance right in front of me. Well, I certainly enjoyed that exhibition, Clint.
Glad you liked it, Rogue. Dancing with Janice is a wonderful way to spend an evening.
I believe that. Well, how about the next one, Janice?
Oh, I can't, Richard. I don't feel very well.
Oh, really, darling?
Yes, I think I'll go to my cabin, Clint. I have a terrible headache.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, dear. Is there anything I can get for you?
I've got some aspirin.
Oh, no. I think I'll just lie down for a while. I'll be back as soon as I feel a little more like enjoying the party.
After Janice Cole left, I ducked Clint and mingled with the crowd, fencing in and out of polite conversation and keeping up a gay front to cover the worry which was stampeding around in my mind. I couldn't forget the lost look in the eyes of Janice Cole, a look that was so full of fear and hopelessness that it haunted me. I decided, after sweating out 30 minutes of wondering why she was so frightened, to drop by her bungalow and have a fatherly chat with her. I casually worked my way along a chain of conversations to the open door and faded unobtrusively out into the night. There was a light in Janice's bungalow. I walked rapidly toward it. The door was ajar. When I knocked on it, it swung open. And I saw Janice lying there, a red pool expanding on the Navajo rug under her head. I took a few steps into the room. Oh! I was on the inside of a giant bell, clinging to the clapper with the strength of desperation. It swung through eternity like a giant pendulum. And at the end of every arc, the universe was shattered by the sound of the tolling. I couldn't stand the noise. I let go on the tremendous upsweep and was catapulted through space at a terrifying, breathless speed. The ringing of the bell grew fainter and fainter. And then, there was quiet. I drifted peacefully for a while and landed as gently as a snowflake on a sparrow's wing. And I rested on cloud 8 in the blackness of complete oblivion.
Hey, Chiefy! Chiefy! You better come out of it!
Oh, go away, Ugor.
No, I'm sorry, Rogie, but you've got to get back on the ball or you're going to find yourself behind it. Come on now. Come on.
Ugor, go away. I'm not well. I've been hurt.
There are things going on that you ought to know about, Rogie.
I don't care. I'm on my vacation.
You're in trouble, Rogie. Bad trouble. Remember that dead girl?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, what are you going to do about it? Let him get away with it?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Let me alone.
Well, I guess you'll be
What do you mean, midget?
No fight left in you. Too bad.
I've got plenty of fight left in me. What's going on down there?
Well, you better go down and see, Rogie. Come on. I'll help you over the side.
Okay. Come on, give me a push, Igor. Oh, you're a fine alter ego, and I'm proud of you.
I try to take care of you, Chiefy. Over you go, Rogie. Over you go.
I dreaded opening my eyes because I remembered that dead girl lying there. But I opened them at last. And what I didn't see made me think I'd lost my mind. Where the body had lain, staining the Navajo rug, there was a Navajo rug, but no stain and no body. I wobbled to my feet. My knees were made of soup. I grabbed the bed for support and threw my massive intellect into high. There were strange things happening here, and they were happening to me. I decided to stay mum and get back to the dance to see what I could discover from the behavior of the inmates. I took out my pocket comb, dressed my hair around the bump on my head so I wouldn't look like I had two, wiped the bed and the doorknob clean of my fingerprints, and looking much better than I felt, rejoined the party. Clint was talking with Nancy Bowman, another luscious lady on the hotel social staff.
Hello, Rogue. We've been looking for you.
Oh, hi, Clint. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, Richard. Where have you been?
We're getting a little fresh air. How about this dance, Nancy?
Can't. I promised Clint.
Oh, go ahead. I'll be noble. Janice should be coming back soon anyhow.
Well, all right then. You're on, Mr. Rogue.
Oh, for you, my dear, both of them. See you later, Clint.
Bye.
You know, Nancy, that Clint's a lucky man getting a girl like Janice. She's what the boys in the back room call a dish.
I suppose Janice isn't lucky getting a man with $1 million.
Not my type. Now, I don't have the million, but I
No,
have
then let's just dance.
Oh.
Now that Janice has her millionaire, I'm out to get mine.
You girls old friends?
Oh, I've worked up here with her summers for a couple of years. She's a grand girl. Everybody loves her.
She's engaged to this creep with the millions?
Yes, they're going to be married in 2 weeks. Don't you ever read the newspapers?
Oh, guess it wasn't on the sport page.
Probably not. Though the way Janice stalked him, it could have been.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
May I cut in?
Hi, Frank. That's up to you, Richard.
Well, I never give up beautiful ladies to strangers.
You don't know Frank, the ladies' home companion?
That can be taken care of. Introduce me, Nancy.
Mr. Rogue, this is Frank Pitts, friend of Janice.
Oh, glad to know you, Mr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Rogue. Where is Janice anyway? She promised me some Roombas tonight.
Well, she wasn't feeling very well. She went to her bungalow to get a little rest. You insist on cutting in?
Unless you have some very fine arguments against it.
Well, I guess I haven't. Nancy, I hope I'll see you later.
You will. This is a temporary thing, Richard.
Oh, what happened to your dance, Rogue?
A man cut in on me.
Oh, that's Frank Pitts. He doesn't belong here, Rogue. He's all shoulders and no money.
I understand that he and Janice are old friends.
That's right. Frank Pitts has been in love with Janice for years. They're from the same town back east.
No kidding. Oh, well, he was in love with her, too, huh?
Desperately. But I don't feel sorry for him. He's not good enough for a girl like Janice.
No, Clint, a girl's entitled to old friends. You seem to be the jealous type. No, I used to be a little like that about Betty Callahan.
I'm not jealous, Rogue. I just hate to see a girl like Janice making a fool of herself over a no-good like that Pitts. Ever since he arrived today, she's been moody and dejected.
Oh, that's the way it is. Oh, that's the way it is, huh? You and Janice had a spat over the old plane.
We did not. You're being most impolite, Mr. Rogue. Janice and I happen to be in love.
Rogue?
Yes?
There's a man outside who would like to talk with you for a minute.
Why?
It's most important, Mr. Rogue. Please come with me.
Okay, excuse me, Clint. Well, you look a little upset. What's the matter?
Oh, it's horrible. Horrible.
May I ask what you're talking about?
No, I can't tell you, Mr. Rogue. But in all my years in hotel management, this is the most terrible thing that's ever happened to me. Here he is, Mr. Mills. Mr. Mills is our district attorney, Mr. Rogue.
Oh, well, I'm glad to know you, Mr. Mills. What can I do for you?
You're Richard Rogue, the private investigator from Los Angeles?
That's right. Why?
Well, I'd like to talk with you, Mr. Rogue, about a murder.
Oh, yes. Why, sure, Mr. Mills. Always glad to lend my talents to law enforcement.
That's nice of you, Mr. Rogue, because you can help a lot on this case. Why did you murder Janice Cole?
We'll return to our story in just a moment. First, dandruff on the shoulders and coat collar of a well-groomed person is as out of place as snow in July. That's why so many persons who want to have a smart, well-groomed appearance use Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo regularly. For Fitch Shampoo has a special solvent action that dissolves unsightly dandruff. When you apply Fitch's to your hair and scalp before adding water, this solvent action goes to work. So it's important to remember not to wet your hair before the shampoo is applied. After massaging your scalp briskly for a few minutes, then apply water. An abundance of cleansing lather will form to carry away the dissolved dandruff. Then the lather rinses out easily and completely, leaves the hair immaculately clean without a trace of dandruff. Yes, Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo is a real aid to good grooming. Use it regularly. You can buy an economical bottle of Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo at your drug or toilet goods counter, or have a professional application at your beauty or barber shop. Now, back to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
My guilty conscience was calling me names and giving me bad advice as I strolled out of the ballroom with the DA. He had accused me of murder, and I knew who was murdered. I'd seen her in her bungalow, dead. Janice Cole. The DA was as quiet as a grave during that walk and not a bit more cheerful. I made a couple of abortive attempts at conversation, but I might as well have been talking to a totem pole. I couldn't understand why he was heading for my bungalow until he opened the door, and I saw Janice lying there on that blood-stained Navajo rug, just as I had seen her a half hour before in her own bungalow. I tried to say something, but the words couldn't get by the lump in my throat. I just stood there, my mouth hanging open, and my stomach frozen in a hangman's knot. I could feel the DA's eyes boring into the back of my head.
Well, Rogue, why'd you do it?
Well, I didn't kill her.
How do you explain the fact that she was killed here in your cabin?
She wasn't.
Now, look, Rogue, you better organize yourself, huh? You're supposed to be a smart investigator. Give me a gun.
I haven't got it on me. It's in that drawer there.
Yeah, we found that one. This girl was shot to death with a .25 automatic.
Any prints on it?
We're going to take yours for comparison.
Am I under suspicion for this murder?
At the moment, that's all you're under. I fondly hope you'll be under arrest for it the next half hour.
Oh. You know, Mills, in a homicide, you usually have to have a motive. Hey, what's that? Why are you waving those newspaper clippings in my face? What are they?
The motive. You were blackmailing Miss Cole, Rogue. We found these clippings in your briefcase.
What do you mean I was blackmailing her? I didn't even know her.
Now, look, Rogue, you're smarter than that. Here's a whole envelope full of clippings covering Miss Cole's trial for the murder of her first husband back in Passaic, New Jersey. Her name was Jane Sherman then, and she was released for lack of evidence. Remember the trial?
Of course I do. Poisoning. But what's that?
So you found out that this Jane Sherman, now known as Janice Cole, was all set to marry $1 million. And you've been blackmailing her.
Oh, I don't know anything about it, I tell you. I don't know how those clippings got into my briefcase. It must have been planted there when I was knocked out in Janice's bungalow.
It's a switch, Rogue. You were knocked out in her bungalow, eh? When?
Look, Mills, I know this whole thing's going to sound fantastic, but I want to tell you the whole story. I came up here on my vacation. I never saw Janice Cole or whatever her name was before tonight. Disbelief walked across the DA's face as I unspun the web of circumstances which tied me into this murder. As I listened to my own story, I knew I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't been there. I showed him the bump on my noggin. He just nodded. I talked on, and as I talked, I realized that I was acting like every murderer I'd ever questioned. I know my face was red, my eyes were shifting as I browbeat my brain into trying to think of some circumstance which would at least give me the benefit of a reasonable doubt. Finally, I stopped talking. He took my fingerprints, and we went to Janice Cole's bungalow. There I got my first break.
All right, Rogue. Now, where was the body lying when you first saw it?
Right here. Come here. Look here. Look under this rug.
Uh-huh.
And blood on the floor where it seeped through the rug that's now in my bungalow. Do you see it?
Yeah. Blood, all right. Well, Rogue, that's the first thing that's made sense since we got together. I suppose there is an outside chance that somebody's trying to frame you.
Enough of a chance so a conviction would be hard to get, Mr. D.A. Look, you know me. I've got a little standing in my profession, a little substance. Give me 24 hours to get this thing hung around the right man's neck.
All right. If I don't have you locked up tonight, will you try and have the right man for me in the morning?
I'll have him. Now, tell me, who knows about the murder?
Well, the maid who went into your cottage to turn your bed down for the night, and the manager. Though I've told them both to keep quiet until I give them the go-ahead to talk.
Then none of the guests know about it yet, except the killer.
That's right. As far as I know.
Okay, Mills. Okay, now. You keep it that way until morning, and I'll come up with a guilty man for you. Big talk. I had been framed with loving care, like a sweetheart's picture. The DA shoved off to take care of the grisly details of moving the body from its temporary resting place on my bungalow floor, and I started shaking Janice Cole's bungalow down. There were particles of curved glass on the floor near where the body had been lying. I picked them up carefully and fitted the larger pieces together. They could only have been the crystal of a small, square wristwatch. It might be the clue to the killer. I went back to the main hotel building. The Saturday night party was still going strong. I rejoined the merry throng and looked for Frank. He seemed to me to be the logical suspect. He was from Janice Cole's hometown. He would have known about her trial for murder. I found him talking with Nancy in a corner, and he had on a large, round wristwatch. Nancy's watch was a dainty diamond and ruby affair, small and oblong.
Hello, Rogue. Nancy's been beating the bushes looking for you.
I have not. I just was mildly curious about where you disappeared to. I wanted to get rid of Frank and finish that dance with you.
Wow, this is as good a time as any. May I have the next one?
You may have all the rest of them if you like. Oh, what's the matter, Richard? You have a pensive look.
Well, I was just trying to figure something out.
Oh?
I was supposed to have a dance with you at 9 o'clock. Where were you?
I was here. I got here just at 9. Didn't I, Frank?
Don't try to prove anything by me, baby. I don't know. At 9 o'clock, I was having a drink with Clint Hayes in my bungalow.
Well, there goes your alibi, Nancy. You weren't here.
Alibi? Why would I need an alibi? I was here, you weren't. I looked all over for you.
Oh, now, let's not argue about it. Let's have the next one, huh? I'll be right back.
Okay. No tricks now.
Hi, Clint.
What?
Oh, how come you're sitting this one out?
Oh, hello, Rogue.
Well, I'm sorry I startled you.
I was just in a deep fog.
Nancy come back yet?
No.
Nancy, I just changed her name there, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about her.
Well, she's subject to headaches like this, poor kid.
Maybe you'd better run over and have a talk with her, huh?
Oh, I hate to bother her when she's feeling bad.
Look, Clint, just to settle a little argument, were you and Frank Pitts having a drink in his bungalow at 9 o'clock?
Oh, yes, matter of fact, we were. How'd you know that?
He just told me. Just a silly little argument.
I wish Janice would hurry back in time for the last dance, at least.
Clint Hayes had on a large, square wristwatch. And he and Frank had unbreakable alibis. Nancy had none. They were my 3 prime suspects, and it looked to me like Nancy was about to be elected. I was sitting there looking for Nancy and carrying on a pointless discussion on headaches, their cause and cure, with Clint, when Nancy came running over.
Come on, Clint. You too, Richard. We're all going down to the pool for a moonlight dip.
No, I don't think I want to, Nancy.
Oh, come on. Just because Janice is feeling rocky tonight is no reason for you to be grumpy. Come on, Richard. Get your swim trunks and give the girls a treat.
Huh? All right. I'm in. Come on, Clint. A little dip or do you got it?
No, I don't think
come on, Clint.
Oh, might as well, Clint. Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
Well, Nancy, you got it all organized?
Yes, Richard and Clint are crazy about the idea, aren't you?
Oh, okay. I'll join you for a while.
Nice man, Clint. Hurry up now. See you at the pool.
We'll continue our story in just a moment. First, a word to the ladies. Are you planning to have a new permanent to help you achieve that cool, crisp look this summer? If you are, here's a good point to remember. Shampooing with Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo will put your hair into grand condition for that cold wave or permanent. That's because Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo is such a thorough cleansing agent. It gets the hair immaculately clean and dandruff-free. Then, since it's completely soluble in water, it rinses out easily, leaving no dull, soapy film. Your hair is left radiant with no dirt, dandruff, or soapy film clinging to the hair strands to obstruct the work of the waving solution. Yes, permanent wave equipment manufacturers, such as the Realistic Permanent Wave Machine Company, E. Frederick Incorporated, and Duart Manufacturing Company, all agree that really clean hair is the first requisite to a successful permanent wave. For a soft, natural-looking wave, prepare your hair first with Fitch, F-I-T-C-H, Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo. Then use Fitch's regularly to keep your wave looking lovely. Now back to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
My performance in the pool that night made Nero's fiddle solo in the light of a burning Rome seem like the height of propriety. Here was Richard, the Fall Guy rogue, swimming and laughing with Frank, Clint, and Nancy, a bunch of murder suspects. A matter of hours before the law put a pair of stylishly plain bracelets on me and claimed me for its own if I hadn't solved the murder of Janice Cole. But there was method in my madness. That swim gave me the information I wanted. In fact, it gave me the murderer. I left before the swimming party broke up and went to one of the guest bungalows. An open window made the job of getting in as easy as falling in love. I found what I was looking for in a chest of drawers. Then I sat down and waited for my victim to come in and turn on the lights.
Rogue, what are you doing here?
Waiting to talk with you about a murder, Clint. Shut the door. Come in and sit down, Clint. I want to know all about what happened to Janice.
Janice? Something's happened to Janice?
Yes, Janice, and don't act so innocent. What do you know about her murder?
I didn't kill her. What makes you think I killed her?
I didn't say you killed her, but I'm sure you know something about it. You know, you shouldn't get involved in murder, Clint. It's too complicated.
You're just talking, Rogue. You killed her. You were blackmailing her and you killed her.
Now, Clint. You weren't supposed to know anything about that. In fact, you couldn't have known anything about it unless you were the guy who framed me so nicely. I'm a little mad at you for that, you know. I'm going to get a confession of that murder out of you some way or other. Now, do you feel like talking, or do I have to beat it out of you?
What makes you think I did it, Rogue?
Take off your wristwatch. Now, look at your wrist.
What?
You see that small square of white skin where you used to wear your small square wristwatch? That was the giveaway, Clint. You see this watch here, the one I found hidden under the shirts in that chest of drawers there? The crystal's broken, Clint. And it was broken in the struggle with Janice tonight just before you shot her. The broken glass was found on the floor of the cabin right where the body was before you moved it to mine. Now, do you feel any more like talking, Clint? Why did you kill her?
I didn't kill her.
I got until morning for you to start talking, and I've got more socks and a 10-story laundry. Now, let me know when you want to start singing. You know what happened in that room, and you're going to tell me.
I didn't kill her. I swear. I didn't, Rogue. I was there. Sure, I was there, but
If you didn't kill her, who did?
I can't tell you.
Come on, Clint. You're not smart enough to work out that frame on me. Who was in this with you?
I wouldn't answer that if I were you, Clint. Drop the gun, Rogue.
Oh, hello, Frank. Well, you're mixed up in this, too, huh? Well, maybe we can arrange a double execution.
I didn't tell him anything, Frank. I didn't tell him a thing.
I know it. I was listening. Sit down, Rogue.
Sure. Glad to. You were the brains of this deal, weren't you, Frank?
It's pretty obvious that quivering mess over there wasn't, isn't it? Good thing I was keeping my eye on him tonight. You see, Rogue, when he opened the door and turned on the lights, I saw you sitting there, and that's why I came in the back way. I was afraid that Clint would talk too much.
You think of everything, don't you?
I try.
What are we going to do now, Frank? This Rogue, he knows I was there when Janice was murdered.
Knows you were there? Well, you might just as well know that you shot her then, huh? You did, you know.
Well, it was an accident.
Was it? I'll decide that.
Aren't you forgetting me, fellas?
Oh, no. No, we're not forgetting you, Mr. Rogue. It really doesn't make any difference who killed Janice as long as you disappear with all the evidence pointing to the fact that you did the job.
No, Frank. I don't want any more killing.
Shut up. I'm handling this affair.
What?
I'm going to keep you out of the gas chamber, Clint, if you'll just shut up and do as I tell you. Take Rogue's necktie off and tie his hands. We're going to knock him off and throw him over a canyon where he'll never be found.
Oh, you are? Well, I might as well take a crack at it. Give me that gun.
Grab him, Clint. Grab him.
Well, thanks, Clint. You were very handy with that chair. How come you hit him?
I couldn't let him kill you. I just couldn't.
All right. Take his necktie off and tie his hands with it. We're going to take him for a ride down to see the district attorney.
I killed her, Rogue. I killed Janice, but it was an accident. I swear it was an accident.
Well, you'll have a dandy chance to explain that to a jury, Clint. But now, come here. I've got something for you.
Oh!
That's for helping to frame me. Oh, brother, is that DA going to love me? Well, that was the end of the case. Frank had been blackmailing Janice Cole ever since her engagement to wealthy playboy Clint Hayes was announced. And that night, when Frank went to Janice's cabin, Clint followed him. When Clint arrived on the scene, jealousy took over. Frank drew a gun, and Clint jumped him. In the struggle which followed, Janice was shot while the gun was in Clint's hand. Helpful Frank accused scared Clint of the murder and talked him into framing me. Frank saw lovely visions of many happy years of blackmailing a millionaire. That broken watch crystal was the only thing that kept the frame from working. So I get my brains beat out. I put the arm on a killer and blackmailer. My vacation is broken up like a drop light bulb, and I didn't make a dime. Oh, well. Let's face it, if I hadn't been so clever, I'd be doing a life sentence instead of Clint and Frank. I would like that. No. I've heard that stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. But it's hard to illustrate the truth of that old saw to a guy who's behind the former looking through the latter. You know what I mean? This is Dick Mushmouth Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed our story tonight. Ray Buffum wrote it. Leith Stevens composed and conducted the music, and Dee Engelbach produced and directed. Be with us again next Sunday, will you? We have a story for you about a doctor, a dentist, and a miserly old lady who comes up dead. We call it, Where There's a Will, There's a Murder. Thanks for listening, and now here's James with a hair Doyle.
Listen again next week at this same time to hear Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery. And by the way, Dick will soon be seen in his newest Columbia picture, Johnny O'Clock.
Laugh a while, let a song be your style. Use bitch shampoo. Don't despair, use your head, save your hair. Use bitch shampoo.
After and between Fitch shampoos, you can keep your hair shining and manageable by using a few drops of Fitch's Ideal Hair Tonic every day. Fitch's Ideal Hair Tonic is not sticky or greasy, yet it gives your hair that well-groomed look.
Welcome back. Mushmouth Powell indeed. He was really struggling with the script there. Perils of live radio. Could also be an indication he was just getting worn out. As I've mentioned before, Rogue's Gallery began as a summer series, summer of 1945. He'd pretty much done an episode a week every week for now this was 56 straight weeks. And it'd be 67 straight weeks before that was done. Which, of course, other radio detectives did, but he was also doing a lot of film work. So this might be why he waited a few years to come back to radio and do Richard Diamond. Well, this is actually our second to last episode of Rogue's Gallery with Dick Powell. We have two additional episodes, these from actors who took on the roles later, but it'll be all for Dick Powell next week. And then coming in 4 weeks is Candy Madsen, and you'll definitely want to be listening for that. Well, I do want to remind you that we do have other old-time radio podcasts available. There's the Old Time Dragnet Show at radiodragnet.com, the Old Time Radio Superman at laserandsword.com. But that will do it for this week. Well, this episode of Let George Do It is brought to you by the support of our great listeners. So here now is today's episode, Most Likely to Die.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details. Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Most Likely to Die, another adventure of George Valentine.
George, listen. 2 telegrams sent just an hour ago. They came together. Mr. Valentine, brother and I need you desperately this evening. Staying few days, Graduate Hall, campus Seaver University. Both hopelessly embroiled in situation only too likely to be death of me. Signed, Joseph Durfee.
Well, go on. What's the other wire say?
Mr. Valentine, brother and I need you desperately this evening. Please wear tuxedo. Be patient with our middle-aged foolishness, leading quickly and dangerously to tragedy. You can find us at party at Graduate Hall. Please don't delay. Not lying when I say it's likely to be death of me. Signed, Douglas Durfee.
Oh, Brooksy, I'm afraid this tuxedo will be the death of me.
George, you look wonderful. Here, this is Graduate Hall.
Yeah, quite a place. A lot of rooms lit up in there. I wonder what kind of a shindig this is.
George!
Huh?
Look out! Over your head!
Hey, what in the name of...
Wow, a bullseye!
A water bag. Paper sack full of water. All right, smart guy up there. Oh, yeah, Angel. Well, at least I won't be bothered by the starch in my shirt anymore.
Well, for me, by the curl in my hair.
Well, okay, chin up, Angel. After a few repairs, we'll join the Durfees in the dancing. And maybe we can be the death of somebody.
Hello. Would you hand me that box of Kleenex,
Water
please?
bag. You got a water bag, didn't you? Oh, they're so funny. They think they're so funny.
Thanks.
So silly and so stupid. Here, I can reach that better than you can.
Oh, no, it's all right.
You won't spot your dress. It's not like one girl. Got a water bag full of cold coffee. Here, I'll fix the mirror for you.
Oh, no, please, I'm fine. What's the matter with you?
Reunion. Reunion, that's all.
Reunion. So that's what this party is.
I guess you must be the only outsider here. The class of 30. Dear old Seaver. Summer reunion, 30. Most likely to succeed.
You've been crying, haven't you? Can I help?
Oh, no. No, most bashful girl in the class. That's what I was. How would I do anything but just keep it to myself? The wallflower's always crying in the powder room, isn't she? While the most popular girl's out dancing.
Oh, now, look, please.
Yes, her name's Cynthia. As in magnolia blossoms, only faded now. Cynthia. Just as stuck up and brainless as... Forgive me. Imagine talking like this at the age of 42. Drooling in sympathy with myself. Weeping over the same mistakes that everybody makes.
Oh, don't feel like that.
Horrible, isn't it? Horrible. What a reunion does to people. The sentiment and the memories. Even the most likely to be happy. Well, thank you, Mrs.
Brooks. Miss Brooks.
Oh, Miss, of course. And not even the 30 we're all the class of. I'm Betty Durfee. Mrs. Durfee. 42. Durfee? Bye-bye.
Oh, yes, they're all here. That was the star football player, that man who's so fat. And over there with the glasses, man most likely to go broke. He's a bank president now.
Yeah, but I'm looking for the Durfee brothers.
Oh.
What's that supposed to mean?
Joe and Doug Durfee. Most likely to be popular forever. Oh, yes, the Durfee boys are here someplace. They're always here.
Mr. Valentine.
See what I mean? Dancing with the most beautiful girl in the class.
Hello, Stinky. Son, are you...
Yes, that's right. I'm Valentine.
Thank heaven you got here, boy. Stinky, would you...
Oh, of course. Good evening, Cynthia. You look lovely.
Why, thank you, sir, she said.
Oh, sorry. This is Mr. Valentine, darling, and Mrs. Chesterton.
Mrs. Chesterton?
Isn't this the loveliest dance, Mr. Valentine? I was only saying to Douglas...
Darling, please, I'll only take a second. Valentine...
Well, I don't mind, Douglas. I'll just dance with you.
No, I'm sorry, but don't dance with Stinky.
Well, whatever on earth? Are you jealous?
Really, I won't step on her toes, darling.
I'm sorry, I said I can't explain, but just stay there a second. Thanks, darling.
Well, all right.
Valentine...
So you're Douglas Durfee, huh?
I just spotted you over there. Only got back from the golf course a few minutes ago.
Say, tell me, is a woman named Betty Durfee your wife by any chance?
Huh? Oh, no. I'm single. She's Joseph's wife. Now, I'll find him, and we'll meet you after this dance upstairs in my room.
For what? What's the job? What's going on here?
Valentine, listen to me. It's the sort of job you may not like. It may seem foolish. So should Stinky's death be foolish, or mine, or Joseph's, or any other man.
Hey, clear it up, will you?
It's Cynthia there. Lady I was dancing with. Don't you understand? And it's my fault, mine. I know I have to say this fast, but Cynthia and I are planning to be married.
Hey, I thought her name was...
Yes, Chesterton. Yes, her husband was in this class, too, but he's not here tonight. Separated. Man's a fool. He divorced, naturally. I thought there'd be. Now I don't know what to think.
Oh, I get it. So that's all it is. Get yourself tangled up with a married woman, huh? You're right, Mr. Durfee. I don't like this kind of job.
Valentine, I know how it sounds, but you've got to help.
Why? Why all your urgent telegrams, and it turns out to be just a case...
Is it only a foolish middle-aged love triangle when the husband hires a thug?
A who?
Yes, you heard me. Over there to keep an eye on her. I know how crazy it is, but...
You mean the big guy?
Yeah, that's right, the sourpuss. We thought he was only somebody's friend. Cynthia still believes he's just an attentive moose named Claude, and he's really a hired watchdog.
All right, then, stay away from him. Away from her.
And when I bumped into him, I found he's carrying a gun.
Stay far away from him.
That was all it was. It isn't just me, Mr. Valentine. Cynthia told my brother she was going to run away with him, with Joe.
What?
Well, never mind the moral analysis of a woman who can't forget how to flirt to destroy men's lives. She was even like that in school. The point is, she's even in more danger than we are. Figure it out for yourself. Her jealous, stuffy, proud husband has finally caught on. That hired thug Claude has come here to kill her.
There's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather. You don't mind if I sing it, do you, Miss Valentine?
No, of course not. Nice song.
Oh, I like nostalgic things, don't you? Of course, you know, they played it when I was very small. You see, I'm not actually in the class of 30. My heavens, just in case my wrinkle is showing.
Sure, Mrs. Chesterton.
What? Oh, I don't mean I'm hiding anything or anything. I'm probably almost as old as you are, but... hello, Douglas. Darling, he's marvelous. Man's watching you, George. What? I'm sorry. What
Just
is it?
keep dancing. There's a guy coming.
You mean Claude?
Now, don't turn, sister. I wanted to see what would happen, and...
I'm sure he won't hurt you.
George, look out!
All
right, stop dancing this instant, both of you. Stop it, I say!
Hey, not so fast, Buster. Let go of her.
Let go yourself. Oh, yes, I know who you are, young man. I've heard the gossips.
Hey, slow down. Take it easy.
It's going to end right now, you understand me? I can take care of your kind with one hand tied behind my back. Yes, I'm still in pretty good condition, aren't I? Not like the rest of you flabby, gossiping fools.
Okay, conditions
And maybe the rest
change,
of you sophomoric wolves will understand that I'm still quite capable of protecting my wife from all of you.
What?
Claude, for heaven's sake, I haven't seen any wolves.
Be quiet, Cynthia. There's been scandalous behavior here, and you know it. All right, we're leaving. We're going home. Oh, I've heard what you've all whispered, all right. Even about the Durfee brothers. And when an old fool like Doug Durfee says that I'm losing my wife to handsomer men, then it's time to put my foot down.
George, please stop it. Just tell me what's happened.
Be quiet! Your turn will come later. But I've exposed your young boyfriend, your George Valentine. That's what I've done. And let me tell you, I've never been so insulted in my life.
Oh, did you see him? Did you see him? That windbag, that fool. The biggest success in the class, and he fell like a ton of bricks.
Oh, why don't you shut up, Durfee? It's you who's going to fall like a... Will you stop laughing?
Oh, you did a beautiful job, Valentine. A beautiful job. And that's Cynthia. Oh, never guessed the stories Joe and I was pretty.
All right. So it's all a practical joke. The Durfee brothers, most popular boys. The waterbag kids.
Oh, no, not that. No, not us. Nothing amateurish like that. We turned mice loose in the girls' gymnasium once.
Oh, great.
At last reunion, we mixed up the room keys, and the president himself walked right in.
Buster, you're the kind of guys who ought to be taken apart piece by piece. And you tagged me for a fall guy. So I guess I'm the one to do it, unless Chesterton gets up here to your room and beats me to it.
Oh, where's your sense of humor? Here's your check. Now get out. Chesterton's liable to be here any minute, or Joe's room upstairs.
Oh, brother, there are 2 in every class, aren't there? And so you both send me wires saying it's likely to be the death of you. Well, Buster, for my money, I'd like to...
Stop it. There's no time. That's the point. Your little sucker act was just act 1.
Hey, wait a minute. You mean you're not through with them yet?
Joe and I cooked it all up right here last night. Got everything ready. Ooh, those Chestertons have been asking for it all their lives. They're going to fix them forever.
Now, look, I don't think much of the Chestertons, but I think a lot less of you.
Joe and I are in love with Cynthia. Now we'll never get her. Hand me that bottle of ketchup, will you?
The ketchup? What do you mean?
Yeah. Shame to spoil a good shirt, but that does it. Knife. I'm using a knife. Pretty bloody.
Oh, no.
I cannot live without you, my note says. Joe's is even better. I'm a failure, and without your love, I can't go on alone.
Phony suicide. So that's it.
Sure, the death of us. We didn't lie to you. Hand me my note, will you? The top drawer there. Oh, I tell you, this is even going to top the time we stole the park bench.
What note?
One I wrote last night, I just told you. It'll even better than the time we turned the moths loose in the movie. Can't live without you. We wrote it together.
What's the matter?
Well, my note. Where's my... Well, it's not here. There's Joe's stuff. But here's 2, the notes. Our suicide notes. They're gone.
No kidding.
We wrote them last night. Put them on the desk here. Somebody must have...
Little joke on the jokers for a change. You guys are so popular. And now somebody has stolen your big, funny suicide notes.
It's Joe.
I had to break in the door for her. Mrs. Durfee.
I haven't seen him all day. But the 2 of them were up to something. I wanted to stop it. They're silly.
Take it easy, Mrs. Durfee. I'm afraid your husband's dead, all right.
Apparently he shot himself. Oh, I'm sure that's what it was. His own suicide note. Signed right there in his hand.
Yeah. I'm a failure, and without your love, I can't go on alone. Joe's stolen note. The funny, funny suicide. Only now it's a perfect murder. We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Why let your vacation trip be spoiled by a car that doesn't want to get started every time you're ready to take off? By a car that balks in city traffic and drags on hills. When a car does that, it's often because sticky gum is slowing down its engine. For most raw gasoline contains impurities that form power-robbing gum. The only way to get rid of the impurities is to refine them out. Chevron Supreme is the gasoline that's super refined to prevent power-robbing gum. That's why Chevron Supreme gives you that new car feeling. Faster starting, faster pickup, ping-free power on the longest and steepest grades. So on your vacation and during your everyday driving, ask for super refined Chevron Supreme and enjoy that new car feeling. Another thing, Chevron Supreme gives you full mileage in the kind of driving you do. Ask for it at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Summer reunion, the class of 30. They're all here. The fated, most beautiful girl, the most jealous and stuffy man, the most likely to succeed, and the most likely to die. Two brothers, the irrepressibles, the perennial jokers, the Durfee boys, Doug and Joe, who have kept things lively through all these years. But now one of them is dead, a victim of his own practical joke, guilty of writing a suicide note in advance and thinking it might be funny. But the suicide notes were stolen, and Joe never lived to laugh. Well, if your name is George Valentine, you agree with Lieutenant Riley when he says that
anything can happen at a reunion. Suicide. Yeah. Jerks who write their own suicide notes just to make some stuffy people look silly.
All right, Riley. Let's stick to the facts. What time did Joe Durfee die?
Oh, 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, maybe. The doc's not sure. But his brother Douglas talked to him on the phone around 4, so it had to be after that.
Doug talked to him?
Yeah, sure. The pair of them had to double-check on their cute little plan, naturally. And it was just after that they sent those sucker telegrams to you.
Yeah, sure.
And the checks. Doug was out at the golf course all day. Caddy had to reach him on the 10th green. And the operator here's got a record of it, too. It's a toll call, the only one placed here from the hall.
Joe was here in his room, huh? Where was his wife, Betty?
Down at a bridge party with the wives downtown. Oh, no, pal. This case isn't going to be easy, if that's what you're driving at.
No, I was just wondering. Where'd the gun come from?
I don't know. Probably won't know. It's just a gun, .32 revolver.
He was holding it in his hand. Other hand had the note.
Yeah, sure. All the window dressing, all right. It was a nice, efficient job, and it could have been one of 200 people.
And no clues, huh?
Well, I thought I had one. Stinky Bronson had to break down this door, remember, when the body was found.
Well, what about it? All suicides lock their doors.
That's what I mean. Another piece of window dressing. Because my lock expert in there says he'll absolutely swear that door was locked by someone who was leaving the room. Pulled it shut after him. So I get all excited. But my fingerprint man says whoever it was wiped the knob clean.
Yeah. One of 200.
Valentine, guess who had a reason for killing Joe Durfee? Guess who hated one of the most popular boys? Guess who has had nasty, unfunny, practical jokes pulled on them in the past years?
Yeah, Riley, the whole class. Just to make it a more perfect murder.
Valentine, I'm not going to apologize because we never grew up. We've been told off by experts, my friend. You should have heard how Joe's wife used to be on the subject. All of them. Yokels. No sense of humor. No sense of...
Humor?
I'm blind. I was out at the golf course all day.
I know. I know you didn't kill your brother. You were miles away, and plenty of witnesses knew it.
Oh, that's not what I meant. I gave a trick ball to a guy in the foursome. Just took off and floated. That's me ever since college.
You mean nobody laughed?
No. Man who gives a hot foot's supposed to beat the rest of the world in a punch. Class of 30. Some very nice people, some big men, important. And the Durfee boys, still in the hour of glory. Still way back there, 1930.
Don't let that singing carry you away.
Shut up. Not too easy to see yourself slip in a banana peel. Failures, if you must have it. Barely a penny between us now, Joe and me. So what?
So nothing.
Oh, sure. In the reunions, we kept it up. Most popular boys. And back in our hometown, Mr. Valentine, we're nothing. We're failures. Have a drink.
Okay, so that's why you kept it up. But if I were you, I'd put the drink down, friend.
Huh?
There's a lot of people still here waiting to be questioned. Maybe one of them killed your brother.
I said shut up, didn't I?
And is watching you right now because you're next. Or hadn't it occurred to you that your suicide note was stolen, too, that it's still missing? That you're a walking invitation to another foolproof crime?
So what? Maybe I don't care. Don't you understand?
George, he's too upset.
Maybe it's my final chance at a real big joke. How about that, Cynthia? Most popular boy in the class. That's me.
Douglas, I'm sorry.
You used to go on dates with me. Now, don't turn away like that.
Please, Douglas, my husband.
Sure, your husband. Maybe old Claude is out loading a gun for me right now.
For heaven's sake.
I think she's heard enough out of you for tonight,
Oh,
Durfee.
Stinky, shut up. You're not so mad at me, are you, darling?
Well, really, Douglas, I should have been warned when Betty told me about your golf ball this afternoon.
Wait a minute, all of you. Hey, Stinky.
Well, Mr. Valentine, I see no reason for our being here. I was just going to take Mrs. Chesterton to find her husband.
I'm sorry, but I thought you were with Joe's wife, Betty Durfee.
Well, every girl has her moment, Mr. Valentine.
I was, yes.
She's upstairs.
Well, I just wanted to get you straight, that's all. Now, you've been around all evening, but you were with Betty when we found the body. And earlier, I remember on the dance floor, you were waiting for somebody in the powder room.
George, Betty was in the powder room the same time I was there.
Stinky, you told me it was only this afternoon.
No. Now, please, I don't have to explain myself.
Stinky is an old beau of mine.
Cynthia. Well, this is a reunion, Mr. Valentine. I'm afraid you'll only get yourself all wound up if you try to figure out all the associations.
Just the same, will you please tell me
Joe and Betty were planning to get a divorce.
A divorce?
Yes, that's what I said.
Well, I know when I saw her, she sounded awfully unhappy.
Mrs. Chesterton, what did you mean just a second ago when you said, Stinky, you told me it was only this afternoon?
Well, he may be an old friend of Betty's, but he's also an old friend of mine. Oh, and my husband's, too, of course.
This afternoon, I said. You said he was with her when she was supposed to be at a bridge party.
But they only left for a little while, 3:30 or 4.
Oh, stop it.
3:30 or 4, huh? Where were you? Where did you bring her?
I don't have to answer. No. I brought Betty out here.
Here at Graduate Hall?
It was something about the divorce. She wanted to see Joe for a minute. That's all it was. And you understand, I didn't come upstairs. I only waited in the car.
Stinky.
Huh?
How much money do you make?
What?
What are you talking about, Durfee?
Valentine, my brother Joe took out a new life insurance policy just a couple of months ago.
Life insurance? Durfee, wait! Durfee!
Get out of here. Get out of here. Lieutenant, I've got to see her. She did it, Betty.
I said get out of here. You can't see her, my friend. She's dead.
Suicide. Betty Durfee. Just like Joe was.
Only no note.
No, she didn't write one like Joe did.
Durfee, I want to get something straight. That insurance. It's your idea, since Betty was up here this afternoon about the time Joe died, that she might have had her eye on his insurance. Is that right?
Kill him? Using the suicide note she'd found?
And now it looks like maybe she killed herself. Just couldn't stand what she'd done. Is that your idea?
Mr. Valentine, I'm all through with ideas.
Yeah, so am I. A murder and then a suicide, both the same way. 200 people, everybody mixed up with everybody else.
Don't you understand, Riley?
Yeah?
Your case is solved.
Yeah?
It's a lot simpler than it looks, Riley. Betty was up here, we know that. She had a key, so she could have got into Joe's room, and she could have left without leaving any fingerprints.
Look, Mr. Valentine, I'm not so sure.
If a man had shut that door you talked about, Riley, leaving the body behind to look like suicide, he would have had to intentionally wipe the doorknob. But a woman would do it by accident, wouldn't she? When she was dressed for a party, wearing gloves.
Well, of course, George.
Then let's suppose for 1 second that when she arrived in Joe's room this afternoon, it was to walk in on a body.
What?
Joe, I mean. Dead. No, stay with me. Now, stay with me. While Betty was in Joe's room, she made a telephone call to her brother-in-law.
No. I had a call from Joe, not from Betty.
But the golf ball, Durfee. How did Cynthia learn about your golf course gag from Betty? Unless you told it to Betty. And I remember you didn't get back in time to be with her this evening. And there was only one toll call to the golf course.
No. All right. I told her. So what? Douglas here couldn't have been the one who killed his brother before she got there. He was out at the golf course all day.
Riley, an insurance policy usually has a clause in it that says you can't collect on a suicide. At least if it happens in the first year or so.
What are you driving at?
You said Joe took out that policy just a couple of months ago. Yeah, you're catching the drift now, aren't you?
I don't
because
know
your brother wasn't murdered, he committed suicide.
Suicide?
Yeah, that's right. Joe killed himself. He left a note, didn't he? I'm a failure. And without your love, I can't go on alone. We know he was a failure. And the love he was talking about was not Cynthia's, but Betty's. Betty who was leaving him, and probably for good reason.
Valentine, those things I said
You
downstairs.
said too much, trying to hang this thing on other people. But it was the insurance all along. Because when Betty phoned you, that was the first thing you thought of. You'd collect no money.
You're crazy,
and so
Valentine.
Joe's death had to be made to look like murder. You got a bright idea and explained it to Betty on the phone. And for a while, she rode along with the gag. But she wasn't standing up very well under the strain this evening. So that's when you killed her.
I didn't kill her, no. Hey, I get it. Especially since you're probably the beneficiary. You'd collect it all. So you killed her and you figure you could make it look like she killed Joe.
There wasn't any practical joke plan for Cynthia and Claude. No stolen suicide notes. It was all planned for us. That's what this whole thing has been. A cash-in on the kind of tricks he and Joe used to play. Better. And like all practical jokes, this one fell flat on its face.
It was quite a frame-up. Send us wires, call us in, invent all that about Cynthia and how they wrote the suicide notes the night before.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad setup, though, was it? Might have worked, Brooksy. Doug had the background to work with. Yeah, maybe he and Joe had planned to pull something like that on the Chestertons in the past.
And it might have worked if he'd called in somebody else besides you to play supper.
Maybe.
Maybe nothing. George, I mean it. Sometimes I think you are absolutely the most... George,
Mm-hmm.
when you were in college, weren't you voted the most likely to something or other?
You really want to know, Angel?
Oh, of course.
Well, I was voted most likely to stay a bachelor.
How often have you heard it said that clothes make the man? There's a lot in that statement because you automatically judge people by their appearance. People are judged, too, by the way their cars look. And here's the easiest way to keep your car clean and gleaming bright. Use Atlas Car Wash and Polish, available at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations. Get a can of each. The car wash is a powder which you add in small amounts to water, and you rinse it off with a hose. No elbow work with a chamois is required. Then make your selection from several auto polishes. They're easy to apply, too. Give your car a clean, lustrous finish, protected against the harsh effects of sun, moisture, and wind-driven dirt. So, to keep that big investment, your car, looking its best at all times, use these Car Saver products. Ask for them at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Alan Reed was heard as Douglas, Sarah Selby as Betty, Lee Patrick as Cynthia, Larry Dobkin as Bronson, and Bill Boucher as Claude. The music was composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, if you thought that the main guest star ought to have been saying yabba dabba doo, you're not alone, I'm sure. It's one of those amazing things. Alan Reed, of course, known as the first voice of Fred Flintstone, was also one of the key great character actors in the golden age of radio. His biggest parts and biggest claims to fame of roles he did consistently tended to be comedy. He became very popular nationally on Fred Allen's show, as a part of the Allen's Alley segment. And then in 1948, he landed the role of Pasquale on Life with Luigi. But Alan Reed was all over radio. We've heard his voice several times if you've been listening for quite a while. But it was fairly ubiquitous. He was in episodes of Suspense and on a lot of detective shows. He actually did another practical Joker character, somewhat similar to this, in an episode of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. We turn now to listener comments. Great Detectives is a package, a terrific rebroadcast of an old-time detective show plus a knowledgeable host who provides insights into cast voices, plot surprises, and even updates on advertisers. Fitch shampoo, anyone? Fitch, of course, we mentioned on Rogues Gallery, got in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission, and actually F.W. Fitch, who started the company, sold it off to a national chain a couple years before he died in the middle of that whole FTC dispute. And then a nice keep up the great work, Adam. All right, well, that will do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes. Well, this episode is brought to you by the faithful support of all of our listeners, particularly financial support. Thank you so much. And now it's time for today's episode, The Laughing Lemur of Hightower Heath.
The makers of Clippercraft clothes for men and 924 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is portrayed by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. And now, once again, we turn into the familiar gate. The wind whistles cold and sharp through empty branches. A brilliant October moon peers intermittently from behind scudding clouds. Hello, what's that in the good doctor's window? Pumpkin lantern. Dr. Watson is celebrating Halloween early this year.
Come in, Mr. Harris, come in. Why the delay on the doorstep?
Why, I was just admiring your Halloween decorations, Dr. Watson.
A work of art, eh? Presented to me this afternoon by my youngest godchild. It's supposed to ward off goblins and witches and other nefarious familiars who are abroad this time of year.
You mean who are supposed to be abroad, Doctor?
Well, not necessarily, Mr. Harris. Not necessarily. Oh, here, take this chair by the fire.
Thank you.
Did I ever tell you of the time Holmes and I had a rather terrifying encounter with the notorious Laughing Lemur of Hightower Heath?
Why, you know you didn't, Doctor. Who was she?
A witch who had been buried centuries before on wild and brooding countryside known as Dartmoor. This adventure took place on All Saints' Eve, the particular witch's Sabbath, which you Americans refer to as Halloween. And there I go off the deep end as usual. Suppose I pause to pour us each a glass of fresh cider, while you pay homage to our sponsor.
What could be fair, Dr. Watson? To tell you that Clippercraft suits sell for only $35 and $40, with a few special models at $43.75. To say that Clippercraft top coats and overcoats sell for only $35 to $40 and sport jackets for only $24 is only half the story. Because you really only begin to appreciate that these prices are astonishingly low when you've seen Clippercraft clothes. Custom details in the form of correct styling, perfect fit, luxurious tailoring, and rich, long-wearing fabrics are yours in Clippercraft. Manufacturing ingenuity and a really great distribution idea make all this possible. Available to you in your own local independent store, where friendly attention is traditionally yours. For through the Clippercraft plan, 924 leading stores across America have concentrated their buying power, resulting in tremendous savings in manufacturing and distribution costs. You'll be amazed at Clippercraft's values. Compare Clippercraft with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now, Dr. Watson, to return to the witch on the moors.
Oh, right. It was one morning several years after my marriage, a brilliant fall day. The last day of October, to be exact. Mary and I had just finished our matutinal Finn and Harry when a violent jangle at the front door bell heralded a telegram from my erstwhile partner in crime, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. As nearly as I can remember, it ran, if convenient, meet me Paddington Station, 10:15. If inconvenient, come anyway. Bring service revolver. Don't suppose you have any silver bullets.
Silver bullets? What was the meaning of that inquiry, Doctor?
As a matter of fact, that was my first question after Holmes had settled himself in the corner of our railway carriage. Holmes, I gather from your telegram that we're about to embark on another investigation. A dangerous one, judging from the fact that you wish me to bring my revolver. But why the facetious inquiry as to the silver bullets?
Because it's a common superstition among the natives of the moors of Devonshire that the evil spirits who are bound there can only be killed by a silver bullet.
Who's interested in native superstitions?
We are, Watson. We've been urgently summoned by Sir Lionel Fenwick of Fenwick Hall because a long-dead ancestress of his is supposed to be on the prowl. It seems she's not only playing all sorts of outrageous pranks, but actually threatening the safety of his infant son, born only 2 weeks ago. In other words, Watson, we're not on the trail of a common criminal. This is a witch hunt. Pressing, Watson, the first glimpse of the moor?
Yes.
We shall be there shortly. Notice that ancient Roman tower. She's buried at the crossroads at the foot of that hill. It's from that building that she derives her name.
Who derives what name?
The Laughing Lemur of Hightower Hill. A lemur is the Roman word for ghost or spirit of the dead. But she was a witch besides. That's why she was buried at the crossroads. She would have been burned, of course, and her ashes scattered to the four winds, except that she was a great lady and married to the head of the house of Fenwick, whose given name was Hugo. Hugo was an old boy in his 60s when he married her. Much to the annoyance of his brother Edgar, he imported a lusty, fun-loving young French noblewoman, a Louise de Lamballe, whose mother was the notorious Madame de Montespan.
Madame de Montespan? Wasn't she a sort of minor Borgia?
Yes, Watson. At any rate, Louise seemed young and gay and exceptionally healthy and active. Too athletic, perhaps, for her ancient bridegroom, because she insisted he accompany her when she rode to hounds. But in due course of time, he was found, his neck broken, on the far side of a particularly high wall, which his wife, shrieking with laughter, had jumped a few moments before. Even after Hugo's death, Louise rode by day and danced by night, and day or night she continued to laugh.
Dashed bad taste, if you ask me.
Quite. At first, her brother-in-law, Edgar, seems to have been fairly tolerant of the situation, since he now believed himself lord of the manor. But one day, 3 weeks after her husband's death, Louise came to him and informed him that she was going to have a child. The dead Hugo was to have an heir. She relayed the information with gales of laughter.
Poor Edgar. The joke was certainly on him.
Oh, no. He started rumors about his brother's widow. The French perfumes she used were love potions. She and 12 companions she brought with her from France had formed a coven.
A coven?
In the old days when witchcraft was in flower, Watson, witches and their familiars banded together in unholy groups of 13, which were called covens.
Oh.
Lastly, Edgar claimed that no mortal had fathered the child, that it was the offspring of the devil himself. In proof of this contention, he pointed out cloven hoof prints under Louise's window. In short, the unfortunate lady was tried as a witch, and English justice being, shall we say, slightly biased in those days, she was sentenced to be hanged by the neck until dead.
Dashed unfair, if you ask me.
After which she was buried at the crossroads beneath the Roman tower, with a stake through her heart and a great stone over the grave to make sure she didn't return from it.
Oh, lot of primitive nonsense.
I wonder. At any rate, during the last fortnight, some person or persons seem to have moved that stone, and some rather curious, not to say frightening, phenomena have occurred. And the present head of the house of Fenwick seems to feel the safety of his firstborn is threatened, and that this danger should reach its peak tonight, which is All Hallows Eve. Yes, here we are. This is our station. And that gentleman waiting over there beside the wagonette with a pair of handsome cobs is undoubtedly Sir Lionel, the present master of Fenwick Hall.
Keep the rug tucked over your knees, gentlemen. It's a longish drive to the hall, and the wind across the moors has turned uncommon cold.
Thank you, Sir Lionel.
I'll admit, Mr. Holmes, I was greatly relieved when I received your telegram saying I could expect you.
Oh? Have there been any further disturbances since you posted your letter to me?
There have, Mr. Holmes. The church bell has tolled at odd hours, last night and the night before. Furthermore, a young goat was discovered, dragged to the foot of the witch's grave, its throat all torn and bleeding. Of course, it could have been killed by a wolf or some ferocious dog, but...
Unpleasant occurrences, Sir Lionel, but as you say, not necessarily supernatural.
That's what I keep telling my wife and that stupid old nurse of hers. But I must say, when old Willie was found to be missing this morning, I really began to worry.
Old Willie?
He's the gatekeeper, Mr. Holmes. Lives in a little stone lodge beside the entrance to our property. He's tended that gate for over 50 years. Never leaves it night or day, except to come up to the hall for the Christmas party and my birthday.
Well, maybe the monotony finally got the best of him, Holmes, and he decided to wander off.
He couldn't wander very far, Dr. Watson. Old Willie is a cripple. He managed to hobble a few feet with the aid of his crutch. But that's the curious part of the story. Willie was missing, but his crutch was there where he left it every night, propped up against the foot of his bed.
By Jove.
Was there anything else missing? Any clothing, overcoat, shoes, money, provisions of any sort?
No, Mr. Holmes. Wherever Willie went, he went in his nightshirt. Not even his carpet slippers are gone.
Nothing was missing, nothing at all?
As a matter of fact, one object has disappeared with him. The old broom with which Willie swept the leaves away from the gates. Old Nanny, my wife's nurse, set up a typical Irish wailing when she heard about it. Insisted old Willie had ridden off on it to join the witch's Sabbath tonight. She always hated him because he makes her get out of the cart and open the gates herself when she goes marketing for my wife.
Typical household feud, Holmes?
I tried to reason with the ignorant old fool, but she kept moaning and groaning that she's always known Willie had the evil eye. She's managed to frighten my poor wife nearly to hysterics. Oh, my wife is Irish, too, Mr. Holmes. Her name is Bridget, in fact. I must say they place more credence in these old wives' tales than we do here. Nanny says it's the curse of the House of Fenwick being visited upon us.
The curse of the House of Fenwick?
Yes, it seems a certain Lady Fenwick, born Louise de Lamballe.
Oh, yes, Holmes has already told me about her. Hanged as a witch and buried at the foot of the Roman Tower.
That's right. Well, it seems that when the hangman came to place the noose around her neck, she turned to my, great something or other grandfather, who had the bad judgment to be standing nearby. She turned to him and laughed.
But my dear brother Edgar, a silken rope. Que c'est charmant. You think this is the end of Louise de Lamballe, but you're so very mistaken. You do not let me live to have my first child, and so I say, I will not let your first child live. No, not the first child of any of the great house of Fenwick. Louise shall come back from the grave. She shall come back and take them all.
Has she managed to live up to her threats, Sir Lionel?
Certainly not all of the oldest children of our house have met an untimely death, but a rather high percentage have been stillborn. Several have succumbed shortly after birth.
The wind is rising.
We're approaching Hightower Tor, Dr. Watson. The wind is always stronger here.
How ghastly the Roman ruins look in the moonlight.
When we reach the next bend in the road, we shall be opposite the witch's grave.
I see. There's a curious strip of mist lying across the road.
Easy, Phoebe. Easy, Blue Boy. What in blazes has got into the horses?
Something seems to have frightened them.
Great Scott, what's that?
There's something white over there in the bracken. Rein in the horses, Sir Lionel.
Right.
I think our investigation may begin here. Right. Come along, Watson.
I'm a
I see that white thing. It's moving. It's crawling along the ground.
Yes, it's a man. He's badly hurt.
What's he doing all in white?
It's a nightshirt, Watson.
By Jove, it's old Willie, but his face is all black, so are his hands. Willie, what's that stuff you've got in your skin?
It's the salve, the flying salve she give me so I could fly here to Hightower Heath. We flew here, me and me broomstick. We flew all the way.
Good Lord, he's out of his head. He's delirious.
Yes, he's in a bad way. Take his pulse, Watson. Here you are, Willie. Take a swig out of my flask.
Thank you, sir. I'm frozen cold. It's been cold ever since I put on the salve.
She said it's 'cause we was flying so high.
Who was she? What was her name?
The witch, of course.
What did she look like?
That I couldn't rightly say. She was wearing a veil over her face and standing in the moonlight at the foot of me bed. I'd been asleep when she called to me.
Wake up, Willie Malloy.
You? Who be you?
Someone who can make you dance. Someone who can make you fly. You've always wanted to dance, haven't you, Willie? They're giving a dance tonight around my grave. Here, take this jar of ointment. Cover yourself well with it, Willie. Cover your old broomstick. It will make you fly.
I'd like that. Free like a bird. I'd like to fly.
Then rub on the ointment. I'll wait for you outside. We'll fly to the tower and dance together around my grave.
I did like she told me, sir. I covered myself in me broom, and first thing I knew, I got lighter and lighter. Up and up I went, up in the clouds. And the next I knew, I was here on the heath, watching them dance, the little people. They was dancing around in a circle, but it made me dizzy to watch them. So I crept under a bush and went to sleep. This morning, I woke up cold and sick. The magic was gone. I couldn't fly, and I couldn't walk.
Poor old boy. Hello. His pulse. It stopped. Holmes, give me the brandy. Willie, don't give up now.
I'm afraid he has, Watson.
Yes, he's dead all right.
Dead of narcotic poisoning and one of the most despicable tricks I've ever encountered.
Mr. Holmes, what do you mean?
I shall be able to answer that question more accurately, Sir Lionel, after I've had a chance to analyze the ointment that's smeared on this broomstick lying beside the body.
What?
Bring it along, Watson. Be careful you don't smear it on your clothes.
The moon's rising above the hill. How white the crossroads look.
Yes, this is where the witch is buried.
I say, look here, all around. The heather is trampled down in a large ring.
Great Scott, there was a dance here last night. Look at these footprints in this damp spot.
Small footprints. All small.
No wonder Willie said he saw the little people.
Here we are, gentlemen. This is Fenwick Hall.
Is that you, Lionel?
Rachel, my dear, I've brought Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Thank heaven for that. It's time we had someone with intelligence to bring order into this hysterical household.
Gentlemen, this is Rachel Conway, my cousin.
How do you do?
She used to keep house for me before my marriage, and she very kindly consented to return while my wife, Bridget, was having her baby.
And a good thing I came back. Bridget hasn't stepped a foot out of her bed since the child was born. She won't even try.
Maybe she might, if you'd go away where you belong.
That will do, Nanny. What's that horrible stench?
They both moved into the nursery with the baby, Nanny and Bridget. She's had her bed brought downstairs, Lionel. They've been burning powders and drawing magic circles round the crib all afternoon. It's a wonder the baby isn't suffocated.
Sure, and something's got to be done to protect the poor little one's soul from the ghouls and ghosties. His father won't give him a proper Christian christening. No, he must wait till the bishop gets back from Scotland. So it's up to his old Nanny to protect him from the witches.
You seem to be an expert on witchcraft, Nanny.
Sure I am that. Me part of Ireland's alive with them.
No doubt. But at the moment, I'm more interested in finding out what this stuff is on the handle of this broomstick and discovering which one of the women in this household has been visiting the witch's grave.
How can you tell that, Mr. Holmes?
Tomorrow morning, Dr. Watson and I will search the room of every woman in this house.
Whatever for, Mr. Holmes?
It was a woman who lured Willie to the crossroads last night. No one can wander over the heath without collecting evidence of it on his or her clothing, mud on the shoes, bracken on the coat or cloak.
By the way, Sir Lionel, do you suppose I could speak to your wife a moment before she goes to sleep?
That she cannot. She's asleep already.
Really? I'd have thought she'd be too concerned over her son's safety to doze off. Tonight of all nights.
They gave her a sleeping potion. They put it into her tea at supper.
I see. You said the nursery was down here on this floor, I believe.
That's right, Dr. Watson.
But surely if the child is in danger, it would be best to move him off the ground floor.
What he's in danger from can come through locked doors. He'll be in danger till he's christened. That's when the witches try to snatch him. It's the soul they're after, not the body.
Nanny, one more word of that nonsense and I'll ship you back to Ireland. Now, get back to your mistress where you belong.
Sure, if it's back to Ireland I'm going, she goes with me, and don't you forget it.
Nanny's a fool, Lionel. You should have got rid of her long ago.
But poor Bridget was so homesick, I didn't have the heart to take her nurse from her.
Good heavens, what am I thinking of? Cook has laid out supper for you gentlemen on a table in front of the fire in the library. I'll fetch some hot coffee.
Thank you, but we've no time to waste on food.
I say, Holmes, I'm starved.
Very well, Watson. Suppose you make us some sandwiches while I set up our chemical equipment. If you could arrange it, Sir Lionel, I should like to have the use of a room not too far from the nursery.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes. You may take over the gun room. It's directly opposite.
Good. And if you smell any further curious odors, don't be alarmed. I imagine we may be able to give Nanny's powders and potions a run for their money. Now, Watson, let's see what we've discovered in this confounded salve. Hog's fat, water, hemlock, aconite, blood. Probably from a rat or bat. I can't determine that without a more powerful microscope. Cinque-foil, deadly nightshade, and soot.
Fine collection of poisonous ingredients, eh, Holmes?
The interesting thing, Watson, is that they're all well-known ancient poisons. The aconite and deadly nightshade, or belladonna, being particularly potent.
Why, belladonna's a violent deliriant. No poor wonder poor old Willie thought he was flying.
Yes, Watson, the salve that was used to anoint Willie and his broomstick was undoubtedly a medieval witch's formula for flying ointment.
You don't really believe in things like that, Holmes?
No, Watson, I don't think Willie actually flew from here to the Roman Tower. But he was undoubtedly under the impression that he'd done so. He was probably transported in a cart or carriage.
But why should anyone want to poison Willie, take him across the moors, and leave him to die?
I don't think the intent was to harm him as much as it was to frighten him. Unfortunately, whoever took him to the witch's grave was frightened off when they found they weren't alone.
When they found they weren't alone?
Exactly. The little people were more than they'd bargained for.
Oh, Holmes, really, there are times when you...
Watson, someone opened the door upstairs. Turn out the lamp. That's right.
I didn't hear anything.
Yes. Someone's coming along the upper hallway. I thought my remark about searching the rooms tomorrow might lead to something. If any of the women in this household have anything to hide, you may depend on it they'll try to get rid of it tonight. Someone's coming down the stairs. Yes, judging by her step, it's a woman. She's heading for the library. You stay here, Watson. Keep your eye on the nursery door. I'm going to follow her. I wouldn't throw those papers in the fireplace, Miss Conway.
Mr. Holmes.
If you'll allow me to take one look at them.
I'd rather die.
Very well. Suppose I tell you what those envelopes contain. Some early photographs of Sir Lionel and letters from him.
But they're not love letters. You must believe me, they're not.
I do believe it, Miss Rachel. You were and still are in love with him. The affection has never been returned. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. But Lionel doesn't know how I feel. He doesn't know I've kept his letters. Please don't tell him. It would kill me if he found out.
I've kept many secrets in my time, Miss Rachel. I believe there's room for one more.
Mr. Holmes, I don't know how to thank you.
Don't try. And for goodness sake, go out to the kitchen and make yourself a cup of tea. Make some for Watson, too.
I will, Mr. Holmes. Oh, I will.
Holmes, come quickly. The old nurse slipped out of the nursery. She's gone upstairs.
Calm yourself, Watson. We'll catch her on the way back. Yes, I wonder what she'll bring with her.
Strange how old houses creak at night.
Quiet, Watson. Yes, she's coming back. She's reached the head of the stairs. Now she's stopped 2 steps down. So that's her little game, is it? Very interesting. Yes, here she comes down the rest of the way. Strike a match, Watson. Now then, Nanny, what's that you've got in your hands? A ball of twine and a pair of shoes.
Why not? My lady's shoes it is. Forgot to shine them.
So you did. Muddy, aren't they? Let me see them.
You go to the devil.
Well, I'll be...
Yes, Watson, as I suspected, Lady Fenwick wasn't as bedridden as she wanted people to believe. Sometime during the last 24 hours, she's been out on the moors.
That red clay on her boots is rather prevalent at the foot of Hightower Hill.
You mean she's been pretending to be the ghost? Holmes, it's midnight. The witching hour.
Help the baby! Save the baby!
Nanny! Bridget, I'm coming!
Lionel, for the love of heaven, stay up there!
Don't come downstairs, Sir Lionel, if you value your neck.
Bridget, Mr. Holmes, what's happening down there?
Light the lamp, Watson. That's better. Now, Sir Lionel, if you'll investigate the second step from the top.
Huh? Good Lord. A piece of twine stretched across the stairs.
Yes, a trip rope. You were supposed to fall downstairs and break your neck.
Oh, no, Lionel. She didn't mean any harm. Nanny only wanted to frighten you so you'd let the priest christen the baby.
You mean that's the reason she gave you, Lady Fenwick?
Bridget, what in heaven's name has been going on here?
Oh, darling, I was so frightened when Nanny told me about the curse and the witch's stone being moved. I didn't want anything to happen to the baby. I didn't know Willie would die. I only thought she wanted to get even with him. I didn't mean any harm. I didn't mean any harm.
Wow, I'll say that was a spine chiller, Dr. Watson.
Appropriate for Halloween, don't you think?
But look now, why did old Nanny want to cause...
Mr. Harris, before I explain all that, suppose we show our gratitude to the people who make this program possible.
A very sound idea, Dr. Watson. It's quite a shock when you're face to face with Clippercraft clothes. I mean, an extremely pleasant shock. For even experts are amazed at Clippercraft values. Without the sacrifice of quality, you can buy really fine Clippercraft clothes for far less than ordinary clothes cost elsewhere, in a pleasant atmosphere at your own local independent store where you get friendly personal attention. Clippercraft has delivered the goods in more ways than one. Through the famous Clippercraft plan, 924 leading stores from coast to coast have concentrated their buying power. The result is exceptionally fine quality at exceptionally low prices. Remember, Clippercraft suits are only $35 and $40, with a few special numbers at $43.75. Top coats and overcoats are only $30 to $40, and sport jackets only $24. Selling beautifully tailored, expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
The leading stores in the metropolitan area that bring you Clippercraft clothes are Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th Street, Manhattan, Abraham and Strauss, Brooklyn, the Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge, Newark, New Jersey, and the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue, Jamaica. These great, courteous, and friendly stores are proud to add their names to that of Clippercraft in the label of your suit, top coat, sports jacket, and overcoat.
Now, Dr. Watson, I was about to ask you, why did old Nanny want to stir up so much trouble?
Oh, she hated the Moors, Mr. Harris. She hated Willie and she hated Sir Lionel. She was a thoroughly warped personality. Holmes suspected her immediately, of course, when he smelled the hocus-pocus powder she'd been burning in the nursery. He knew she must have made the flying ointment that was responsible for Willie's death.
Well, now, Doctor, what about the gravestone, ringing church bells, and the little people?
Who is it plays Halloween pranks, Mr. Harris?
You mean children?
Right. Holmes realized that when he saw the size of the footprints on Hightower Heath.
Well, I'm blessed.
I hope so, I'm sure. Now, let me see. Next week I'll tell you how Holmes and I investigated the case of a little governess whose employer agreed to pay her extra wages because she was willing to cut off her hair and wear a bright blue dress.
Sounds like rather curious requests, Dr. Watson. Why was she asked to do those things?
That question led Holmes and myself to visit a decidedly sinister country place called the Copper Beeches. We found a most unexpected answer in the attic.
The makers of Clippercraft clothes and 924 leading stores from coast to coast. have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Loughrane, with special music by Albert Berman. If you don't know your Clippercraft dealer, write Clippercraft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in the Adventure of the Copper Beeches. If you'd like to attend the Sherlock Holmes broadcasts in New York, see your local Clippercraft dealer, and he'll tell you how to obtain your tickets. This is Cy Harris speaking for Clippercraft Clothes. This is a Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I really am not a fan of making the listeners wait through the commercial to find out how Holmes solved the case. But I guess that's one way to make sure that they don't walk out before hearing the last ad for Clippercraft suits. And I guess overall, appropriately creepy story that worked with that time of year. Well, we do have a listener comment over on Podcast Alley. I go to sleep every night listening to the latest download. Well, I hope this one doesn't make it harder to go to sleep. But thank you so much for listening out there. We will be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Well, after September 3rd, Edmund O'Brien left the show Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar on September 3rd, and Johnny Dollar left the air until around Thanksgiving, when it returned on November 28th of 1952, with John Lund in the lead role. Lund, unlike O'Brien, wasn't really a star of any sort. He was in 25 movies between 1946 and 1957, and then another 2 in the 1960s. As far as we can tell, he never made a television appearance, and never had a really breakout movie that made him a star. For CBS, that meant he was going to be there pretty consistently. He was a respected actor. He was vice president of the Screen Actors Guild during most of the 1950s. But he wasn't someone whose rising stardom would have him taken away from the show. He was someone who was steady, reliable, he was going to be there. And he was a capable actor of both stage, screen, and radio, with a lot of appearance on anthology shows such as Family Theater and Suspense. If there's anything that Lund was perhaps noteworthy for, it was that he probably had a more happy and peaceful life than nearly any of the other actors to play Johnny Dollar. He had one marriage that lasted 39 years. He had the respect of his peers and retired in 1963 for a second successful career in business, and outlived all of the other actors who played Johnny Dollar, dying in 1992 at the ripe old age of 81. For many listeners, John Lund is not their favorite Johnny Dollar. Indeed, when the Nostalgia page did a poll of their listeners to get the favorite Johnny Dollar, like Charles Russell, Lund got 0 votes. In his book on the Who is Johnny Dollar matter, John Abbott said that Lund's portrayal of Dollar was boring. And his initial evaluation of Dollar, Jim Widner of the Radio Detective Story Hour was not a fan. However, Widner came back recently and said that he found Lund's portrayal of Dollar to be warm. And so we'll decide for ourselves over the next 70-odd weeks as we listen to John Lund as Johnny Dollar. Well, our first episode, this one's going to require a little bit of work on our part. because it's not, in one way, a full episode. It is John Lund's audition for the role of Johnny Dollar. And a lot of OTR sites date this, this is a pilot for the serialized version of Johnny Dollar, which would come around a little less than 3 years after Johnny Dollar returned in a half-hour time slot. The 15-minute serial version of Johnny Dollar, the way that the serial version worked was that Monday through Friday, a 15-minute episode would air each day. For the audition, they expanded an episode, The Transpacific Matter, from 1950 into a bit of a serial, and they actually only expanded the beginning and the end. So all we have, and all that was ever produced was the part 1 part and the part 5 part. But there's no parts missing. It's just the way it was recorded. If you get confused at all, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to the Transpacific Export Matter. It was episode 275. We did that in November of 2010. Before we do get started with today's episode, I do want to encourage you as you make your travel plans, as holidays coming up, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com. It's powered by Priceline, which allows you to save money either by naming your own price or choosing from great published fares. Plus, you can save even more by getting a vacation package, which combines, say, hotel and rental car, or hotel, rental car, and airline ticket. And it helps to support the great detectives of old-time radio. So here, from sometime in November of 1952, is the Transpacific Export Matter with John Lund.
From Hollywood, it's time now for John Lund as Johnny Dollar.
Al Harper, Corinthian, Johnny. I have a case here you won't like, but the commission will be good if we beat it.
How big is the policy?
$200,000. I'm afraid to tell you the rest.
Why?
It's in Hong Kong. You'll have to travel.
Well, you haven't scared me yet. Is there something you're leaving out?
Policyholders are people we've had trouble with before. Remember the Transpacific Import-Export outfit?
Yeah. I sent flowers to the widow. Transpacific was in Shanghai then.
This is their Hong Kong place. Want to take a crack at it?
No. But I will.
Good.
Al.
Yeah?
I'm scared now. Tonight and every weekday night, John Lund in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Corinthian Liability and Risk, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Transpacific matter. I found Hong Kong to be a city without simplicity, burdened with the tragic complexities of war. To fill the smallest want is a difficult and almost always expensive task. There's a shortage of everything: food, water, health, places to live. Both the island and the city of Kowloon on the mainland burst with thousands of refugees who have moved from the interior. Over the bobbing head of my rickshaw boy, I watched many of them lining the streets, wailing for alms, as we made our way to the offices of the American consulate.
Yes, it is true. Life is very difficult here.
Where are they all going?
Many of them do not know. Where is there for them to go?
What do they do? How do they stay alive?
Many of them do not. It is not like this in your America?
No.
Has it ever been?
Well, there was a civil war once. The books I've read say that at times it was pretty bad.
But not like this.
Never.
Yes, Mr. Grover.
Louisa, would you ask Mr. Dollar to step in, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Grover is ready to speak with you.
Thanks.
Ah, Hartford, Connecticut, huh? Sounds foreign.
I suppose it would.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Mr. Dollar.
Same here, Mr. Grover.
Yeah, sit down. Yeah, insurance investigation, huh?
Yes.
Well, now, what's your errand, and what can this office do for you?
I'm here to investigate a claim filed by the Transpacific Import-Export Company.
Oh, yes, of course. Will Meadows' firm. Destroyed by fire last month.
100%. Or $200,000 worth to my company. Do you know this William Meadow, Mr. Grover?
I met him at the American Club now and then. That's about all. Hey, insurance investigators are hired
when the company isn't satisfied with something about the claim. On this one, the fire was blamed on vandalism.
Well, vandalism has become quite a popular pastime. Cross and Kowloon especially. Do you suspect some sort of fraud?
Frankly, we do, Mr. Grover. Transpacific once had a branch in Shanghai.
Hmm.
When the war closed in on them up there, their warehouse burnt to the ground. Just like this one here.
I see.
And it occurred to a number of people in my home office that Transpacific did much better by collecting on the insurance at that time than by going through the expense of liquidating.
I suppose coincidence won't quite do it, will it? Well, now, how can I help you?
Well, I'd appreciate some phone calls or letters that would give me some support from the fire department, the police. I don't suppose my problem seems very important out here.
We're just thinking that very thing. It's always the case, Mr. Dollar. On the fringe of war, very few individual problems seem very important. Nor are the individuals themselves in the end. I trust you'll keep that in mind as you conduct your investigation here, huh?
I'll try to.
Getting help, even time from the police or fire brigade, is one of those individual problems, but I'll do what I can for you.
Well, anything will help, Mr. Grover. I won't take up any more of your time.
Hey, elections must have been quite exciting back home, huh?
Oh, yes, they were.
I miss that part of home very much. Oh, be sure to leave your number with my girl. I'll let you know about the official assistance.
Well, I came right here from the airport. I don't have a number yet.
Oh, well.
Pretty tough?
Yes. As a matter of fact, almost impossible. The Occidental places are always filled. I'll tell you. You speak with my receptionist, Miss Vadris.
Vadris?
Yes, her father's half Portuguese. He might have accommodations. She's a charming girl. They're nice people.
Good. I'll ask her. And thanks again.
Mr. Dollar, just a matter of interest.
Yes?
The case of the Transpacific import in Shanghai. You say your company was forced to meet the claim there?
That's right.
Was it investigated?
The investigator they sent over was killed before he could build a case.
Oh.
They blamed his death on war conditions, too. They said he was robbed and knifed by starving refugees. Nobody had time to dig up the truth. Miss Vadris arranged for accommodations at her father's place on a street called Sing Wong, a hill of steps that climbs from the waterfront to the plush European residences on the top of Victoria Peak. I had a room that looked out on an alley. There was an iron bed, a chair, and a pitcher of water on a bamboo table. There were no other non-Orientals in the building, but I seemed to be the only one that noticed it. The first night there, I was suffering from a combination of claustrophobia and loneliness. Feelings which at first made me glad to learn that it was she who knocked at my door. Hello, Miss Vadris.
Hello, Mr. Dollar. Mr. Grover contacted a man named Harrison. He's at the fire control office here.
Oh?
Mr. Grover asked me to tell you that Mr. Harrison will see you tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's good. Won't you come in?
Are you comfortable?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am. This is fine. I don't have much to offer you. Cigarette? Scotch?
No, thank you. I am very curious.
About what?
Why you are here?
Business, if that's what you mean. It's better kept confidential right now.
Is there danger in this business?
Why do you ask that?
Because you are followed here, and you are being watched.
How do you know?
Oh, I know Sing Wong Street. I have seen this man, but not here.
Where is he?
Perhaps you can see him from the window.
Wait a minute. You tell me where he is. I'll look.
The shop on the other side. There are boxes piled near the door.
Yeah. You say you've seen him. Where?
I kind of remember that. I have just seen him.
Uh-huh. Well, no need to worry. There won't be any trouble here.
You seem sure of that.
I have the advantage right now. He doesn't know that I know he's there. Well, thanks for telling me about him.
Perhaps you know who he is.
No. I didn't think anybody knew I was in town.
You will let this go on, the watching?
Not much choice. But, let's talk about something else, huh? What's that music?
Oh, that is love song. Two lonely people who meet near a river.
Oh. In America, the songs are different.
Oh, yes, I know. I like them.
Do you know many Americans?
Oh, yes. At the consulate office, I see them all the time. I want to marry one.
Well, I'd say he was a very lucky American.
You misunderstand. I do not mean there's only one. I want to marry an American who would take me from China. There is no other way.
You hate it that much?
There's nothing else to do but hate it. There's no good here, always trouble. The Chinese are patient people, but I'm not all Chinese, and I cannot make myself be patient any longer. I want to go to America where people thrive on impatience. You know, I would think from what I've seen of them, the Americans are the most impatient people in the world.
They say we kill ourselves that way. Heart and stomach.
But still you live longer and better.
What about your Portuguese people?
Oh, they're gone. You think I'm bad to be this way?
Oh, no. No, I didn't say that.
I'm not bad.
I hope you find your American, Miss Vadris.
You want me to go now?
Well, I think you'd better. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Good night.
Three things interfered with sleep that night. The pleading in the eyes of the girl. The smells and sounds that drifted into my room from the restless, crowded city. And the watcher, who was still at his station across the street when I turned out my light. The toughest part of the case was that failure in Shanghai where the agent had been killed. It was a sobering memory. And for that reason, every face on Sing Wong Street was a suspicious one. In every group of Hong Kong Chinese, a potential assassin, with my watcher the first to be reckoned with. Gun in hand, eyes on the street, I fell asleep that night, watching him. The next morning, there was a different man in his place. I was followed to the office of Harrison, the chief of the fire brigade, who, it developed, couldn't see me after all. So, with the morning on my hands, I decided to talk to William Meadow, the head of Transpacific.
Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Meadow at home?
Oh, yes, sir. You give name, please.
Who is it, Lim?
American gentleman.
My name is Dollar, Mr. Meadow. I'm from Corinthian Liability, Hartford office.
All the way from the States?
That's right.
Let him in, Lim.
Oh, you come in, please.
What did you say your name was?
Dollar.
Now, what's the matter with that company, anyway?
This doesn't have to be unpleasant,
They sit
Mr.
back
Meadow.
there in Hartford with nothing to worry about but Sunday's golf game. They don't know anything about the conditions we're working under.
They do know that your fire here pretty much follows the pattern of the one in Shanghai.
And of course it does. The conditions are the same.
Including the starving refugees to kill and rob the investigator?
I tell you this now. Careless people are dying here every day. It can happen pretty easy. Now, say what you have to say to me and get out of here.
It's very little, Mr. Meadow. I came here mainly to get my reaction to you. I have. You jumped to the conclusion that you were under suspicion before I got through that door. You're on the defensive, so you must have a reason to be.
Show him out,
Oh,
Lim.
you come now, Mr. Dollar.
Wait. More important, you're having me followed. So you must be afraid of
Please,
me.
Mr. Dollar.
Hold on. I'm not afraid of you, Dollar, or what you can find, or what you might try to do. Corinthian liability means no more to me than a bill I authorized payment on at the beginning of the year. My firm burned down here, and that dandy little company of yours is going to pay the claim. True, I don't like you snooping around. I don't like you coming here to my house like this. You know it. No man would. That's the biggest parcel of information you'll ever get from me.
Then I'll go elsewhere.
Good idea. Have your dreams, Dollar, but have them someplace else. Go snoop through the ashes. They're cold, mainly. Just get out of here.
Oh, now, Mr. Dollar, please.
I can find the door. Two things came out of that conversation with William Meadow. One, a reasonable platform to build a suspicion on. Two, a veiled threat in his reference to the agent who had been killed in Shanghai. Let me elaborate on that. Most all of what Meadows was saying to me was, this is my town and I run things. Anybody who gets in my way can get hurt. It was a real nice situation, all right. I'd been threatened, and I was being followed. Expense account item 2, $7 for scotch. I rickshawed back to my hotel, locked myself in, and took up my vigil by the window. Same watcher, same kind of night. In a city where life was supposedly so cheap, mine began to grow expensive.
Be sure to hear tomorrow's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring John Lund, who can currently be seen in the Universal International picture Just Across the Street. Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar is written by E. Jack Newman with music by Eddie Dunstetter and is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Cubberly, inviting you to join us every day, Monday through Friday, when John Lund appears as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, you meet adventure when you meet Johnny Dollar on the CBS Radio Network. From Hollywood, it's time now for John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Grover, American Consulate.
Oh, hi.
I'm back in my office. Do you know why?
Why?
Because Superintendent Clyde of the Hong Kong police telephoned me. He's very upset over your attitude, asked me to speak with you. I told him I did speak to you earlier tonight, warned you to be cautious.
I've been cautious, Mr. Grover. I just scalped a two-bit thug that William Meadow had on me. The next one on my list is Meadow himself. What do you think of that?
Oh, use your head.
Look, Meadows' claim on his warehouse is no good. He hasn't liked me peeking around proving it's no good. Louisa Vedras was killed by him or one of his men because they thought it was me. And something's got to be done about it.
Well, I agree, but will you come over and talk first?
All right, Mr. Grover. But don't try to stop me.
Tonight and every weekday night, John Lund in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Fifth day in Hong Kong. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Corinthian Liability and Risk, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of additional expenditures during my investigation of the Transpacific matter. Expense account item 14, $48 American. Rental on 35 Packard. I got tired of rickshaws. But I had a hard time driving through the Hong Kong streets. Anybody would. They were still jammed with humanity. Humanity on the verge of panic. Humanity living on the edge of a war. Only thing I can say for that Packard was that the horn worked beautifully, and hardly anybody paid any attention to it. Took me an hour to get to Grover's office. He gave me a drink and listened to my story.
Are you sure this man who's been following you is in the employ of William Meadow?
Positive. He told me.
Yeah, but under duress.
He had a knife and a gun on him. Sure, I'd arrest him. I'd arrest anybody with that kind of equipment, Mr. Grover. Wouldn't you?
Calm down. You got a point, boy. Here, have another.
Thanks.
Now, what about Meadow? You say you're going after him. What do you mean?
Just that. I'm going to get him.
Yeah, you said that. But let me ask you something else. Is it for your insurance company or because of Louisa's death? This is for my own information, Dollar.
Louisa and I got to know each other pretty well during the first 3 days I was here. I don't quite know how it happened. This has been a bad job for the nerves, with my mind on what happened to the man in Shanghai and all.
Mm-hmm.
She got me the room at her father's hotel. She was there when I came back after a pretty bad day. I didn't know who was following me, and I guess I needed somebody to be with. So she stayed for a while. And she was there the next night, waiting for me in the room. And she was waiting for me to come back the night she was killed.
That answers me.
Don't you see? They killed her thinking it was me.
You're sure of that?
Of course. As sure as if I'd had a camera on the whole thing. But I can't move these police here. I can't get them to do anything.
You don't understand these people here. They have to be cautious.
Well, I don't. Not anymore. Look, I can't come into her life for 2 days and be responsible for her death and then not do anything about it.
So you're going after Meadow?
That's right.
Well, I promised I wouldn't try to stop you.
Yeah, thanks.
But be careful.
I'm glad he didn't say cautious. I had a big hate on for the word when I crawled back into the rented Packard and headed toward the south part of town where Meadow lived. Meadow? Open up. Somebody open up or I'll shoot this lock off.
Oh, who is it?
It's Mr. Dollar. I've been here before. Open the door. Let me in. Hurry up.
Oh, you wait. Oh, hello, Mr. Dollar. Mr. Meadow, he's not here. You come back next week. Oh, no, please, you wait. Mr. Meadow, he's not here, I tell you.
Close the door.
Oh, Mr. Meadow, he's not here.
Meadow! Meadow!
He's not here. You come back.
Where is he?
Oh, he say he come back next week. You come back then. He see you then. Now you go home.
Look, I've got to find him. If you know where he is, tell me.
Oh, he come back next week.
Now, listen. I don't want to hurt you. Do you understand?
Oh, do not hurt.
But I will hurt plenty if I don't find out where he is. It's important. Now, tell me. Where is he?
Oh, he say not to tell anybody.
Tell me.
Oh, Mr. Meadow, he fire me if I tell.
Tell me.
Oh, all right. Oh, he go Kowloon.
Kowloon, eh?
Oh, yes, Kowloon. You find him there.
Then you go with me. If he's not there, then I hurt. Once more. Once more. I have to find him. Where is he?
All right, I tell you. Repulse Bay.
What?
Repulse Bay.
Repulse Bay? On the other side of the island? Where the big hotel is?
Oh, yes, he there.
Can I call him there on the telephone?
Yes, you call.
Is he at the hotel?
Oh, no, he have cottage, number 7, last one.
Where's the telephone?
Oh, please, you not tell how you learn he there, please.
No.
Oh, telephone.
Call the number.
Oh, I no talk.
I'll talk. Go ahead.
Repulse Bay Hotel?
Oh, Mr. Meadow Cottage, please.
Okay, give it to me.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh, you see, I tell truth, he there.
You did fine.
Oh, you go see?
Yeah.
You no tell.
No, I won't tell. But it won't make any difference anymore.
I don't understand, Mr. Dollar.
You will.
Hong Kong Police Department.
I want to talk to the superintendent.
Yes, sir. Hold on.
Superintendent Clyde here.
Will you believe a confession from William Meadow?
Oh? Who is this? Mr. Dollar?
Yeah.
What is this about a confession?
Meadow's going to make one.
Oh, now, see here.
He's at Repulse Bay, Cottage 7. I'm going there now. If you want that confession, have some men there. Outside in an hour. And quiet till it's finished.
I warn you, Dollar, any illegalities on your part will be answered for.
Oh, you go now, Mr. Dollar, huh?
Yeah. I go now. The Packard got me there in 40 minutes. And I was in front of Cottage 7 when the police car slid in with lights and motors turned off.
Dollar?
Yeah. Let's get away from the house.
Oh, Dollar, we came here not because of what you said on the phone about getting a confession, but to see to it that nothing happens here that would better be prevented.
Thank you.
Wait. Now, I have no reason to arrest you right now, but I will, and I mean it, if you do anything out of line.
Well, then keep an eye on me.
You're a hot-headed, impetuous man. My department and I have stood for all of the insults and badgering we will from you. I thought Mr. Grover made that clear to you.
Mr. Grover told me you had to be cautious.
And we do. Your case against William Meadow is nothing but notarized statements from people who could have said most anything. Well, your accusations as regards the murder of that poor girl bear consideration, but they also are very inconclusive.
But you haven't done anything about either.
We do things our way, Mr. Dollar, in spite of your insurance company. There is no case against him.
And why did he have me followed?
Oh, did he?
Some pug who was waiting for a chance at me. I shook him down 2 hours ago and found out Meadow hired him.
Oh, that doesn't seem reasonable, Dollar. In light of what you said previously, if Meadow assumed you were the one shot behind the screen in your hotel room instead of the girl.
No, it doesn't, except he found out the wrong person was killed. Doesn't any of this mean anything to you people?
Well, we'd have to interview the man you shook down. Where is he?
In an alley on Sing Wong, for all I know. I left him cold.
Well, Dollar, make your play.
What?
We'll back you up. Go ahead. All of us seem to be flying blind. This might flush out some truth.
I don't understand.
I checked on you as investigator quite thoroughly. You have a reputation in your United States, an enviable one. I can't disregard that. Very well. We'll wait here and do what you can.
Well, you put up a lot of fights, Superintendent.
So do you. Good luck.
Who is it?
It's Dollar.
Who?
Dollar. You know I'm still alive. You know that girl was shot instead of me at the hotel room?
I don't know anything.
Meadow, I want you to go back to town with me and make a statement to the police.
Are you crazy?
Oh, no, I'm not crazy. I'm here to clear up 2 things, her murder and that fire. And you know I'm going to do it.
Do I?
I stopped that man you had following me. His statement will put you in plenty of hot water.
Go away.
I said I wanted you to come with me.
I heard you.
Will you come down or shall I come in?
Come on in. We'll talk about it.
It'll be a pleasure. Meadow? Meadow? Meadow.
You should have known you wouldn't take me down. I hated you when you...
What?
I hit you, didn't I?
Oh, just in the arm. It'll be all right.
Should have been your stomach.
You're cashing in, Meadow. How about it? A statement.
No.
Tell it, Meadow, how you fired the warehouse. And about the girl. It can't hurt you now.
I'll tell you nothing.
Dollar, you all right?
Yeah. Meadow. Meadow.
should have got you it.
All right, Dollar. You better have that arm taken care of.
Expense account item 15. $43 even. Medical fees and hospital charges. I don't suppose it could be called hewing to the niceties of jurisprudence, since Meadow was dead and he refused before dying to speak or write his confession. But there were 2 police carloads of expert witnesses who took the fact that he had opened fire as an acceptable admission of guilt for the crimes accused. The same thing cleared me legally, on the grounds of self-defense. I'd hoped it would clear my mind, but it hasn't. Louisa Vedras is still there. I guess she always will be. Nothing good came out of this assignment except saving your company some money it didn't know it had. Item 16, same as item 1, plane fare back to United States. Expense account total, $4,515. End of 5th day. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by E. Jack Newman with music by Eddie Dunstetter. John Lund can currently be seen in the Universal International picture Just Across the Street. Featured in our cast were Joe Kearns, Lillian Baeff, Robert Griffin, and Bill Johnstone. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Cubberly, inviting you to join us next Monday when John Lund appears as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
And remember, you meet adventure when you meet Johnny Dollar on the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, a decent performance by Lund here. Compared to the previous version, I definitely do like the O'Brien performance, but I think definitely going to be good to listen to, and the writing continues to remain at a high level. Though he did almost seem to lose it at one point and crack up a little during one of the lines towards the end. Well, next week we'll, of course, be back to our normal way of doing shows, and I hope this wasn't too disorienting. I think we'll only have one other episode like this, and won't be during the Lund era. For those of you who have the app or premium site, we're going to have an app special featuring a Lux Radio theater performance by John Lund playing the role of Jim Bowie, called The Iron Mistress, and that'll be your extra for today. In the meanwhile, if you have a comment, email to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Give us a call, 208-991-4783. Oh, I almost forgot, I have a listener comment on Podcast Alley. Excellent podcast, great host. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support and encourage everybody to vote on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Remember to take our listener survey, survey.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.